We're calling to order, can you hear me? The Trinity County Board of Supervisors meeting for May 20th, 2025. Supervisor Lutweiler, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will begin this meeting today with item A1, County Council receive an annual report from our County Council.
One moment while I get the power set up.
Chair, may I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Could we do the proclamation first for the,
Department of Transportation.
yes, ma'am, and then we'll do county council next, so we can release all the folks that are here to support the Public Works
Yes, thank you.
proclamation.
Yes, we'll do the proclamation first.
Thank you.
So there'll be a bit of order change. We are going to recognize and adopt a proclamation for the Transportation Department. Before I get started, I just want to say front and center, thank you guys all for the guys and gals for all the work that you do for all of us. It's truly appreciated. This proclamation of the Board of Supervisors of Trinity County declaring May 18th through the 24th, 2025 as a Public Works Week. People, purpose, presence. Whereas the Public Works, DOT, General Services, and Solid Waste for Trinity County professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and service that are all vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Trinity County. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedication, efforts of public work professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. Whereas it is the public's interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Trinity County to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depend on these facilities and services. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, construction, operations, and maintenance are vitally depend upon the efforts and skill of public works staff. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. They've been providing these services since long before any of us were here today. We're born. They are here today and will be here tomorrow. They are our public works. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Trinity County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim the week May 18th through the 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week in Trinity County and calls upon our community members and civic organizations to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, comfort, and quality of life for all. We will duly pass this and adopt it on the 20th day of May, 2025 by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity.
So moved.
So moved.
Will second that motion.
Ooh, sorry. Supervisor Luteweather,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield,
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Thank you.
We would like to thank you. Do we have anyone from that would like to speak or?
I'll speak on behalf of Public Works, or DOT in our case, Solid Waste and General Services. Those are the people who making sure everything is running smoothly and you have a seamless life. While police, fire, and EMS get all the credit as they have the nice uniforms and flashy equipment, Public Works, in our case, DOT, Solid Waste, and General Services were there before, like I said in the proclamation, during and after the event. They're the people who plow the roads when most of us are asleep. They're out in the storms, making sure everything is clear. California has been hit by many, many storms year after year, and yet we function very, very well. And that's due to those unsung heroes that no one knows about, that they're out there doing the work for all of us to have a good life. So I like to thank all of them who are here. We have some representatives, and again, thank you.
Yes, thank you all. Would any other members of the board like to make a comment? Supervisor Luteweather?
Yes, thank you. I did want to just echo what our vice chair had to say today, as well as Panos, that I think folks in these roles are often only receive feedback when there's a complaint about something that still hasn't been done, not the recognition of all that gets done. And especially when you think about the long hours, the unplanned hours, the heavy, hard work that is often having to be done. I'm just very, very appreciative for all that you do. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Yes. All right, then we'll take a photo.
Some people in the back.
Stand sideways. There you go. Get in there. Perfect. Thanks, Jessica. Thank you. Get up early when you're still tired, or go out when it's cold. We will now return to item A1, County Council, receive an annual report from our county council.
Good morning, board. Thank you so much for the opportunity to do this. I do enjoy doing this every year because it does give me an opportunity to reflect on what this office has done for the past year and all the great work with the departments we've done. I've done just a quick PowerPoint just to go over just some of our accomplishments for this year and just to provide you some numbers of what we're seeing in terms of trends. And I can say before we get into this, it's actually been a very good year trend-wise. A lot of the cases we've been dealing with have been declining, and we'll go through that. So the county council's office, we have several statutory obligations. The first one is that our job is to provide legal opinions to the county and the county officers. This is the work that the public and even the board doesn't see all the time. It's the opportunity for us to work directly with the departments and the department heads and make sure that all their questions and advice that they need is provided. The goal is to fix the problems before they become problems. So a lot of, again, this doesn't get escalated up to the board level. It's handled on a department level. This thing is not being good today. If you wouldn't mind advancing it for me. So I show up at the board meetings. My partner and the Assistant County Counsel, Amanda Erhammer, shows up as well. But I thought it was important to make sure that you understand that there's a whole group working behind the scenes for Trinity County. And each of us has taken different responsibilities to make sure that the county is properly served with all the legal. We have attorneys in our office that have very specific specialties, and we have some that are more generalists. Amanda Erhammer, you'll see her again. She covers board meetings. She also directs litigation. We have two types of litigation in the county. Type one's that's sent to the insurance, and the insurance handles it to outside counsel. And there's also litigation we have to handle internally, and those are cases that don't involve damages or claims for damages. So those are more writs, election-based items, anything related to planning public works. Those would come through our office, and Amanda has been handling a lot of that for the county for the past several years. Last year, we were lucky enough to bring Red Evangelplow as well on board. There had been a need in public works, public works planning and cannabis for some more specialized training. She is our land use expert. We were very lucky to grab her from Nevada County when she retired as their assistant county counsel and directed all their land use and planning items. She has weekly meetings with the folks from planning and cannabis to make sure that all their questions are answered, that they're prepared for all their meetings, and that every legal document or policy that they're bringing forward has reviewed. Sean Cameron's been with us for many years. He does a lot of our contracts, also our transactional work. So he's behind the scenes looking at every single one of our contracts. He works closely with roads on their RFPs and other items that they're bringing forward. Michelle Nassis, you will probably never see her. All she does is PRAs. That's her complete focus, which is wonderful to have somebody who's got that expertise and the ability to not pull their hair out when the PRAs come in. So she handles all of those for us with the assistance of Kelly Hay, who is our legal assistant who handles PRAs. Kelsey, you'll see her as well. Kelsey Walsh, she does code enforcement, receiverships. She does public guardian. And unfortunately, the courts changed their court date in terms of when they hear CPS matters. So starting in July, she'll be having to handle CPS as well, since our attorney that has been handling them is going to be conflicted on the new date that they've selected, which of course is Tuesday mornings. And then Andrew Plett, he is a generalist, so he comes in to assist. You'll sometimes see him in board meetings. He's been the county counsel. He's going to be the county counsel in Sierra County. He's also been county counsel in Tehama County for many years and just has a general overall knowledge. And then Colleen Smith, again, you won't see her because she's our researcher on our special projects. So sometimes you'll get very detailed and complex memos that go into, finite legal research. That's usually she's had her hand in helping us get the research prepared for that. Our office also has 3 support staff members that really focus on Trinity County, Kelly, Karen, and Gretchen. They each really have a specialty they work on, but they're also available to support departments and department staff however they need. The next thing we do is, it's working, no, you're good. The next thing we do is we do review every written document that comes out of this county. So this includes contracts, leases, memorandums, legal documents, anything that comes on your agenda, we've reviewed it in advance. And anything a lot of stuff that doesn't come on the agenda that we handle internally, we've also reviewed. Since July 2024, so I typically do about a 10-month period because I prepare this in April. We reviewed 172 contracts and 40 ordinances and resolutions. This includes, ones that are simple, but it also includes very complex ones where we have to make significant modifications and sometimes even have to draft them from scratch. But this doesn't include the RFPs, which we also have a significant number that we review every year, MOUs, and then contracts that don't come to the board. If they're below a certain fiscal amount, sometimes they're reviewed outside of the board because they meet the threshold that your county administrator can handle. We also handle all public records. So in county, every document we produce is a public record. It's available for the public to inspect and review. This has been a huge part of what our job has been for the county for many years, is reviewing these documents, making sure that they're properly provided to the public, but also making sure that confidential information is removed from it. This year, we did have an opportunity to do a full PRA training for the department heads and staff and developed a procedure and process Also educated them on, how to respond to them. And so what this has allowed is the department heads have a little more autonomy in terms of being able to respond to some of the simple ones that, the standard ones that we see, which has reduced the amount that our office has handled in the past 10 months, which is wonderful. We've only had to do 46 since July of 2024. This, again, it can be attributed to the department heads doing a wonderful job in getting the documents prepared. It also is a trend. When you have a county that's going through some significant changes, typically you'll see an increase of PRAs. When you have a stable county, you'll typically see a decrease of PRAs. And I think this year has shown that the stability of Trinity County is really reflecting in the ability to reduce our number of PRAs. We also, again, we handle litigation that comes in-house. This number in the past has been pretty high in terms of the number of cases we handle. But this year has had, again, a significant drop. The number of cases total for the county that have been handled by outside counsel is 7. That's a reduction from last year. The number of cases we've had to handle in-house has been 1. We've also had a case of national litigation, which is the opioid litigation, which continues. So we continue to handle that on behalf of the county. We've also had to file 2 workplace temporary restraining orders. So that is the new rules that have come into play that require us to provide a safe and crime-free environment for our employees. There's been some new rules have been put in place on that and do necessitate us to step up and get restraining orders if somebody is threatening one of our employees. And this year we've had to do 2 of those. We've also had a significant increase in dangerous dog cases, which is when a dog attacks another human or another animal. They do have an opportunity for a hearing to decide what's going to happen to the dog. And so we do handle those as well. We hadn't had any for several years. And this year we have 2, including one that's pending right now. Again, another part that most people see us at is involving in our code enforcement. This year the board has directed us and we've taken up the challenge with several of the department heads to look at other options for cleaning up some of the blight in the community. And one of the techniques that we have utilized is something called a receivership. And what this is it's an equitable remedy. We take it to a court and have the court appoint a neutral third party to come in. That individual has the opportunity to clean the property up at their expense and then sell the property. And then the money that is from the property is used to pay off the receiver. It's used to pay back the county for our legal fees because we do all the legal work to prepare for it. And then the remainder goes back to the property owner. This is somewhat a last resort. Again, we typically try to work with them to clean up themselves, but sometimes our owners are out of town or they really don't have any interest in doing that. And as a result, it's created some really dilapidated houses and properties that have been bad for the community, bad for our tax rolls, and have created, increased crime areas. So currently we have 9 properties that are going through receivership. We have Mad River, Hayfork, Lewiston. We've got, so we've got them all spread out throughout the county. We have a receiver who has agreed to take on Trinity County, which is usually the hardest part, is finding somebody to come in. And we had a good relationship with a very talented receiver who came up here and said, let me take a look, and has agreed to take on 9 of the properties, which is a huge win for the county. And we're currently in the process of doing all of the legal paperwork to get it posted. So we post the property, we give them ample opportunity to correct it themselves. We give them ample opportunity to work out arrangements with the county. As I said, typically what we're seeing is they're saying, please come in and help us. We don't have the resources to do this. And so then we're in the process of getting the court to appoint this neutral third party who will actually come in and physically clean it up. We've also had some additional code enforcement with cannabis related items. For this year, we've gotten 7 permanent injunctions that were granted. So what that means is when the properties have cannabis on it, we go out there, we have an opportunity to ask the court to issue a permanent injunction that prohibits them from violating the ordinances we have in place regarding cannabis control. So we have 7 of those for this year. That brings our total since 2018 when the program started to 112 permanent injunctions that have been established. We've also have settlement agreements. We've done 15 this year. Which is, again, they agree to clean up the property. They agree to abide by our rules. And they agree that if they don't do that, we have an opportunity to step in and clean it up as well. And so far, since 2018, we've done 88 of those. Last part of our job that we have a lot of parts of our job, but one I wanted to highlight is our work that we do with conservatorships, guardians, and this is our work we do with HHS. I know they've done presentations for you about what they're handling. They are dealing with, with families and individuals who are developmentally disabled and unable to care for themselves at their lowest points. So they typically come in and try to provide a stabilization in CPS cases, reunification, and they really step in these families' hardest times. We do a lot of work with them as well. We are in court with them every time. We are in meetings with them every time they're meeting to discuss how to staff these cases, what's the best case way forward. And, I'm pleased to report this year, we've had a pretty significant reduction in our cases. We had, I believe it was 16 new cases. Now, this doesn't account for the cases that are ongoing. The goal for CPS is reunification within 6 months if you're under the age of 3, or a year if you're over the age of 3. But unfortunately, some families don't reunify, and so the cases stay with us for years. So the social workers really develop relationships with these families and as they try to help them, guide them to reunification or stabilization. So this year, we've only had 16 new cases, which is a significant reduction, which is great. And public guardian cases, again, that's when somebody is unable to care for themselves. We've had 18 new cases. And again, this doesn't account for the ongoing cases of which, again, when you're dealing with public guardian cases, they typically will go until the individual passes away or there's a family member who steps up and says, I'm willing to take over this responsibility. So these are just new cases. But there's been I wanted to highlight that there's been a significant reduction in these cases, which again, shines to the fact that there's some stabilization going on in this county. So that's always a good sign. Again, that's just wanted to highlight some of the stuff that's going on. I know we have a pretty busy day, so I didn't want to go into too much details, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions about County Counsel's office and what we've done this year.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
Yes, I just wanted to check. I know when we were renegotiating contracts, we did have a new kind of structure to the arrangement that would, for instance, only cover X amount of PRAs, and then there would be charges extra for that and so forth. And I appreciate the training of staff and all the efforts to try to minimize that. What I'm wondering though is when we think about the billings to the county, what is I guess I'm looking to maybe Susie and Trent as well, but also looking for how and when do we get an assessment of what we contracted for versus what might be coming in as the exceptions are happening? We'll just do that in the budget review process?
I can answer this year, we have not gone over the PRAs. We did the training and as a mechanism to make sure we didn't even come close, and it was successful. So as far as I'm aware, this year, there's been no overages. But I turn to Susie, who knows everything about everything.
All that.
Okay.
The CAO's office has talked about how to update the board on the financial aspect of it. And we have the numbers. We will just figure out the right methodology to present them to the board. We are within the current contract confines, and there haven't been additional extra expenditures, if you will, for specific items over and above the allotted contract requirements.
Okay. And I do know that, and thank you for that. I was expecting some of that detail today, but getting it later is just fine. And it's good to hear that we haven't had any of those exceptions. I know that in the past we have, perhaps come in and thought, oh, well, we have a contract, if you say that is for a couple $100,000, and yet total legal expense is $600,000. And so that's what I'm trying to get my head around is how has that been adjusting? And I know some of that's driven by, well, it's litigation and all these other things that come up that are, of course, extra. And that's what I'm just trying to get at some point when you're ready.
And we can put that together.
Thank you.
And just, there is the basic, contract amount, the monthly amount for county council services. But then Margaret mentioned, the HHS specific items, that's another expenditure separate from typical county council, and that equates to a fairly decent amount of money as well on a monthly basis. So, but we can break that out and provide a report to the board.
Thank you.
But for the public's awareness, in case they're not, pieces that you've said, HHS, that are expensive are not general fund dollars.
Yes, so our contract is for general counsel services. It covers everything with some few exceptions. One of the exceptions is labor negotiations, the other one's litigation. And then we had a carve out this year for excessive PRAs, which we haven't even touched, so that's good. And again, as you can see, the litigation's also been significantly reduced, so that hasn't gone into that. HHS is also on a flat fee, but it's divided separately because it is paid for by non-general fund, so we keep it separate in order for the fact that we don't want to touch general fund money for that.
Thank you.
Supervisor Pop? I'm good. Supervisor Council? Thank you. I just want to say that I am, every year, it's a good reminder to help for myself, but then I also think for the public to see how much work is done outside of this seat. It's so much, and I appreciate that. And I also am just grateful that uh, your comments about seeing some stabilization, I think that's a good sign. I appreciate that awareness and letting us know that that's one of the tools that we can use to recognize positive changes. So thank you.
Thank you. Great, thank you.
We will move on to item B, public comment. This time is for information from the public on matters not appearing on this agenda or within the consent calendar. All comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. When addressing the board, please state your name for the record and address the board as a whole through the chair. No action or discussion will be conducted on these matters not listed on the agenda. However, the chair may refer the subject matter to the appropriate department to follow up or schedule the matter on a subsequent board agenda. Do we have any public comment in the room? Good morning.
Terrence Mines, Junction City, California. Yeah, I heard Margaret say it's getting a little slow, but I'd hate to think I'd have to pick up her business, but we got some unfinished responsibilities from the county. The first is a fee license. We don't have our licensing fees. There's this fee study the day we went into the cannabis program years ago, and there's a responsibility for the county to provide the licensing fee study. Then we have the renewal license fee study, and I went in and I spoke to Trent about this, I don't know, a few months back. I said, this has to come out. Everybody wants to see it. It's over. Then it was brought to my attention that, I went in to pay for my renewal on my license, and county did some real magical thing and used my equity money to pay for it. Well, this isn't the only county I'm licensed in. I'm licensed in multiple other counties and cities. And in Calaveras County, where we paid an initial $12,500 licensing fee, now it's only a $2,000 annual licensing, because that's what's supposed to happen. You don't have to go through this whole process. You just have a little checkbox, and then it's over. So for some reason, our county has this humongous cannabis staff still, and I don't know why we would have all these people when we're into a licensing annual program now. We're pretty much all into annuals. This year it's finished for everyone. You're not even allowed to have a provisional license anymore. So that's it, that's gone. So the county could be saving, I don't even know how much the cannabis staff over here is in the building. You could sell the building. Cannabis staff's pretty much gone. You need a person to check off it's an annual license. So there's a large mismanagement going on there also with the money. But more importantly, you misused my equity money to pay for a license which is overcharged. My $8,000 fee should be about $1,500 at max. Okay, so you owe me $6,500 on the last one right away, and you owe every other licensing person in the county money. That's the first big problem is that you're mischarging us and you're somehow ripping off the state with the equity money. I have notified the state about this. I sent Trent and I notified the state that the equity money is being misused and misappropriated in this county. I am actively, I have one of my attorneys looking into it and they're contacting the state. Okay, that's the first big problem you have. Second big problem is you've been taking $1,000 a year from all of us licensees for the general plan, and you're not using this money for our benefit. You're using it against us. See, you're creating these opt-out zones. You've been enforcing that, but you haven't really came and created a protection zone for us. And I've heard a lot of things in the background about how you're trying to change things, you're not doing them in our benefit. So I'm giving you a notice of intent to litigate on this process alone on the general plan. Because I feel
Your
that you're.
time is up. Thank you. Hello, welcome.
Good morning. My name's Alexander Modine. I live at 71 Nelson Road in Hayfork, California. Board of Supervisors, I appreciate your time today. I've lived in Trinity County for 15 years, and I'm an IHSS provider for my father, who's a Navy veteran and is battling prostate cancer and seizures. As a member of the bargaining team, I want to highlight to you the critical work that IHSS provides to our families, friends, and community. We are the frontline support that keeps our loved ones cared for and safe. I also want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to bargain for a raise, an investment that will directly improve the lives of those doing this vital work. Your support strengthens the foundation of care in our community, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew Scrimmager. I live at 157 Center Street here in Weaverville. I'm a board delegate representing Trinity County on 2015's executive board. And I've been a caregiver for about 5.5 years, taking care of the same two clients, my neighbors and friends. They're a Vietnam vet and his wife. And I'm just here to let you guys know I'm grateful for the opportunity to bargain with you guys. And I'm very confident it will not be a contentious or brutal knockout, drag out kind of thing. I think it's going to go pretty smooth. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to negotiate and to address you guys today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Madeline. I live in Redding, California. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. I am also an IHSS provider, and I'm also the union representative for Shasta and Trinity counties. I'm a rank and file organizer because I came from membership. I had the honor and privilege of caring for my grandmother on hospice until she was able to peacefully pass with dignity in the security of her own home from lichen planus and esophageal cancer. After that, I was the primary provider for my now 92-year-old grandfather who served our country in the Korean War and later served Shasta County as a deputy sheriff. My grandpa, who now lives with dementia, has been granted protective supervision and is able to maintain his freedom and independence to stay at home because of this program. Many seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities in this rural community depend on the services of their IHSS caregiver to survive and to maintain their dignity and respect, to stay at home and avoid residential care. As you guys well know, rural living is a little bit different, right? Even a trip to the store can be an expense. And if you aren't fortunate enough to have your own vehicle, even getting the necessities that you need around here can be a struggle. There are about 200 IHSS workers in this community who are depending on you guys to invest in their wages to make it possible for them to stay with their recipients. These people depending on these providers to come to work are your most vulnerable constituents. And so we really look forward to celebrating when you guys stand in solidarity with us and these constituents who need you the most and vote to invest in long-term care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other public comment in the room? Any online?
I have no raised hands.
Thank you. We'll now move to item C, reports and announcements. Do we have any department head reports in the room? I see none. Any online?
I have no raised hands and see no department heads unmuting.
Okay, just as a note to the public, we often receive our department head reports via email and other communications, so they are happening even though they're not presenting here publicly. We'll now move to item C2, report from County Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple things in addition to the department head reports that are sent to the board. Those are also placed on the appropriate department head's website for the public to review at their reading pleasure. Couple items I have. So in the past, we reported on the California Digital Equity Program. There was a grant application that our RCRC team was doing on our behalf. Unfortunately, that grant was terminated via the U.S. Department of Commerce effective 9 May. That would have been a $215,000 grant to help with digital equity. But even though that grant, unfortunately, that grant was canceled, I don't want this to get confused with the larger federal funding authority broadband grant application that the Golden State Connect Authority and RCRC have in fact already submitted on our behalf, as been previously reported here. So lots of things going on in the broadband world, and there was some announcements made on this one small grant. Just don't want that to get confused with the larger grant efforts that are still ongoing in our county. And we'll hopefully hear some positive results on those here in the not so distant future. Last week, the governor released his 2025-2026 May revision, they call it. And then on last Friday, the CEOs were on a call with the State Department of Finance director, kind of understanding a rundown of what was in that release. There's an approximate $10 billion statewide shortfall from a budget perspective. There's various actions that are taking place and adjustments being made. But there's no specific way to know what those impacts will have on our county. So I just want the board and the public to know that we are tracking these items. But I've often heard, well, I want to know with the exact results or the exact impact in Trinity County. Well, unfortunately, that's just not known yet. And it's not as easy just to understand, what the state announces in their big May revision and then how that's going to trickle down to the county. Over time, as those unknowns become knowns, we will in fact communicate that to the constituents. We will communicate that to the board. But at this point in time, we just don't know what exact impacts there will be. But there is a chance, that there would be some, depending upon what exact adjustments the state makes in their $10 billion budget shortfall. And then as a reminder, on the 10th and 11th of June, we're having special board meetings to go over the general plan documents the team has put together. We'll go over the current status. We'll review all of the general plan elements that are out there in draft. We'll review all the public comments. We'll review the land use designations, some options that the board will have, some decisions that will be made. We'll get some board input, and then we'll get that direction to continue on the process. But it will be a good 2-day discussion. There'll be some lengthy discussions about some land use designations I'm anticipating, but that's what the whole process is for. We did get a number of good public comments in, and those have been all compiled, and staff has looked through those, and we'll present all that information to the board on the 10th and 11th, and those will be all-day workshops. I do plan on, at the June 3rd meeting, to provide a presentation to the board on some various revenue possibilities. Some would involve voter input and some would not. The timeline for any revenue possibilities requiring voter input is appropriate because this puts us at about a year out from the general election cycle. If decisions need to be made, it would give us adequate time to either support the community in something or take forth what the board might make some decisions on. But I do plan on talking about that. You may be aware, that there's over in Redding right now, so in a neighboring county, they have a community-initiated sales tax petition going around. So I'll share some information about that, and there are some good examples out there and good opportunities, depending upon which way we being the entire community, may want to go on this topic or not. there may be a decision not to do anything. But we'll have that discussion. Or at least start the discussion, let me put it that way. And that's all I've got in this topic for right now.
Thank you.
You have a question?
Any questions of the board?
Yes, so Trent, I'm wondering for the review sessions that we'll have on June 10th and 11th, are the documents that are available online today the same documents we'll be reviewing, or will there be changes made between now and then? Just wondering, when will everyone have access to the final documents we'll be reviewing?
Yeah, the same draft documents, that's what we will be reviewing. And we'll get out as soon as we can, the actual comments and the PowerPoint slides and all that kind of stuff that will also be reviewed at those meetings. We're certainly going to try to do it much more than the mandatory 24-hour advancement, just so everybody's got time to review and come up with some good, have a good discussion. So that should be released. We went over them yesterday, so it probably early June we'll be targeting to get that information out.
Okay.
But the documents themselves, the draft documents, are the same documents that are currently out there right now.
Okay. And you and I had spoken at a couple of occasions about the work that the ad hoc committee on the cannabis arena had done in the past, and we intentionally put things on hold to allow some stability. And then you had passed all that input from the public and the ad hoc committee to the folks working on the general plan, so that they could incorporate what was appropriate, and then we could still look at the rest. Do you anticipate that these discussions and documents will include some of that, or is that all to really come in later rounds?
So the vast majority of that will come in later rounds when we specifically do the zoning code update. These two meetings, these 2 days will not focus on the zoning code aspect of it. However, a big part of the discussion and we're going to do it up front on the first day, will revolve around the land use designations. So, what each parcel will be, how that land will be designated, whether that's rural residential, ag, or forest preserve, or reserve, or resource, so we'll have that discussion. So it is related, but the majority of that work the ad hoc did, and some of those other public forums that we held and we got a lot of good information in, that will be specifically addressed in the zoning code update, which is later in the summer, early fall time period.
Thank you.
Supervisor Cox, any questions? We will now move to item C3, reports from members of the Board of Supervisors. Supervisor Brownfield, will you begin, please?
Thank you. So I have met with quite a few people in my constituency. I also went to a meeting, a Post Mountain PUD meeting, in which they're trying to establish the fire department and the roads that they have, problems that they have there. It's moving along very well. The board at Post Mountain is doing their work. The president has done a very good job of bringing things together and moving forward on the problems that they face there. So I'm really encouraged. I think that they're going to get what they need there, and I'm happy to see it. They deserve it. I met with Trent, the CAO. I went with the auditor, controller. I'm still learning what's going on in our county, how it works, what we need to do to help my district. And then Ed Presley is the building department, and I'm working with him to do a disaster relief ordinance update to fix the when we have a natural disaster, the way that we handle that in our county. So those are pretty big things, and I'm really encouraged. Our district is really coming together to make sure that we get the things that we need, and I'm there to help them. That's what I'm there to do. And so I'm encouraged. Our roads, it's a battle, constant battle. But we are going to win this war with the roads up there. It's slow, but I won't give up, and I know we're going to get it done. So I'm happy to see the people coming to my town halls that are every month. And thank you for allowing me to be here and to help with the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Cox?
PSA 2 meeting yesterday, there were significant cuts made in this arena as well, and not strictly across the board. And so if that's something that you participate in, something that receives those funds, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to go over those spreadsheets with you if you're interested. Fire chiefs meeting, they continue to review their staffings, the trainings that are going on. One of the the assistant fire chief from Trinity Center is serving to help inform the way that our vegetative management ordinance will move forward, engaging the assistance of the fire chiefs, and they were very amiable to the invitation to be a part of that process. Just to note that for the Forest Service, all 11 engines will be fully staffed on the west side. And that is something we've never seen. And I think that an incredible thank you needs to go out to our Weaverville District Ranger, who works enormously hard. She happens to be here with us today on another item. But thank you for that coverage that you have so dutifully and willingly facilitated on our behalf. Fire Safe Council meeting happens this week on Thursday. I did attend the collaborative recreation meeting as well as the collaborative regular meeting. You will see, you've already read the item that we have coming up on our agenda regarding that. For the RCRC ad hoc that I have been privileged to serve as vice chair on, that group had our kickoff meeting. We are studying recruitment and retention issues in our rural counties. So to begin preparations on that, I did meet with county HR to learn some specific and previous to me, unknown things that we are forced to do by state mandate that are really difficult, that other small counties have been able to invest the time and the money to wiggle their way out of, which literally took years. So hopefully there could be a broader effort toward that end, and maybe at the end of all of this, we will see that benefit. RCRC generally, you see a letter of support on our consent agenda today that comes from efforts I've made interacting with that body regarding SB 607. And then I am moving our need for what I hope becomes pedestrian-initiated rapid repeater signals at our crosswalks. That is not available to us through Caltrans at this point for the ask. And so my request is that via a larger body of input, we will consider accidents at the level that they currently only consider fatalities. So more on that to come as I engage with that effort. That's the end of my report.
Supervisor Leutwiler? Thank you.
I'm just making a note about that last one. Well, the most important update is our daughters visited from out of country and out of state.
Did you have a good
It
time?
was wonderful, but that did mean that I missed a couple of meetings, the rape prevention and education group that met while they were here, as well as the jail health. So I did receive updates from those folks. The SCED, the Regional Economic Development Board of Directors meeting was held last week in Reading. NORTEC Executive Committee meeting was held virtually. We were working on the replacement of the executive director who is retiring. I was with Supervisor Cox during the PSA2 board meeting yesterday. And then yesterday afternoon, we held another Tourism Development Advisory Board meeting, and I'll be providing an update on that as part of the agenda later. And this week on Thursday is the NORTEC board meeting that will be held in Chico on Thursday. That's it.
Good job. Thank you, sir. I'll report out that I had no out of county travel. I did attend a few meetings online for the Rural Action Caucus for NACO and then the public lands. Both of those work continuously and constantly still on the secure rural schools and hope for that. And also on just preparing all of our remote communities for the future of wildfire season. I also, currently right now, the Western Interstate Region for NACO is meeting in South Dakota. I sit on a number of those, but we have to choose which meetings we can go to, and so I'm forgoing that one this year. But I will be paying attention and reaching out to some of my colleagues that attended that to pick up on anything I may have missed during that time, and also watch any of the recorded presentations. I had the beautiful opportunity of speaking at Heritage Days this last weekend. What a delightful day in our community to celebrate the Native American tribes of our region, and then also just the grit of the pioneers and everyone who make this place what it is and what it took for us to get there. During that meeting, I did run into Mr. Green and Fabio, and they were headed back to DC to continue our fight for secure rural schools. So we're all doubling down and applying pressure where we can and hoping that there may still be a slight flag of hope. And that is all I have to report from this last week. I will be at the Memorial Day events that are coming up at the on Monday at Hayfork and High and Palm. So we look forward to that. It's always a very solemn yet a powerful reminder of those who have gone before us to keep our country free and to fight for liberties around the world. So we'll be participating in the Hayfork reading of names of the veterans lost, and then also I will in the High and Palm area. I hope everyone has a good and safe Memorial Weekend.
Could I just say something, or ask you a question, Chair? So for the rural schools, do you know when that decision will be made so that we
if
know which way it will go?
Perhaps CAO Tuttle can add fresh.
Yeah, the current status is that SRS has been linked to the Big Beautiful Bill. So if you follow the Big Beautiful Bill at all, that is where the only opportunity we have for secure rural schools to pass. It is a my opinion, it is a very political bill. The Big Beautiful Bill is. So, we are just at the whims of what's going to happen with that. In an ideal world, something would happen this week prior to Memorial Day weekend. So we'll see. The latest action is this morning at 1 a.m. they started some committee discussions on it. So there's various political opinions about that and information in the news we can all gleam onto and make our own decisions on that. Personally, I think it's still very much a long shot for it to pass in time for us to realize the revenue in this fiscal year.
So just for clarification, if it passes through Congress even this year, the time it takes for that dollars to actually reach us would be past our ability to use them in this fiscal year.
Correct. They work on a federal fiscal year, so technically they have until 30 September this year, to pass that bill. I don't think it's going to linger that long from a political standpoint, but we'll see. But from a technical congressional standpoint, they've got until 30 September to work that bill.
And just for a point of clarification for anyone who needs to catch up, just roughly how much does that impact our county roads department if this bill is not realized for this fiscal year?
So SRS will bring, or does bring, approximately 1.3 million to our roads department, and that equal value to the schools. So we would both be losing that. In the 1 year that this has happened before, there was a federal PILT program slight increase when we didn't get SRS funds. It is unknown at this point in time if that same process would happen. That was back in the 17 time period. So unfortunately, there's just a lot of unknowns still with it from, will we get the full amount? And then if we don't get the full amount, will there be another offset in PILT? We typically get PILT funding the later part of June. So that's upcoming as well. And then that unknown will become a known.
All right, thank you for that extra clarification.
And then one more thing. So sorry about, but so if we get it this year, if it does pass and we can't use it this year, can we use it next year, or do we have to go through this again? And if it doesn't pass, is there a better way to approach getting it maybe on a smaller bill or a different way through Congress to make it a little?
So
standalone?
this is a much, much bigger issue than Trinity County.
Right.
The folks, Jamie Green has been a huge advocate of this, and I absolutely thank him from the bottom of my heart for all the efforts he has done on behalf of the entire county on this effort. His focus is with the schools, but he definitely takes a holistic, whole of county look when he advocates on our behalf. He's done multiple trips to DC, and I don't think we would be as far along as we are without his direct engagement on this. But if the current proposal passes in the Big Beautiful Bill, it is for a 3-year allocation. So again, unknown whether that'll actually pass or not. If it doesn't pass, this has been the biggest challenge with SRS is how to get it passed and what bill to
Buy it too.
add it to as a rider, because it's not one in and of itself. So it's been tied to the Farm Bill in the past. It's been tied to a lot of different things. We could probably talk offline as far as strategies and work with Jamie as far as other bills, but unfortunately, a lot of that is outside our control, and we would need to work with our federally elected officials to get better insight into what mechanisms and processes they feel are best suited for that SRS effort to pass.
And just so that you all are aware too of the efforts that RCRC continues to make in the same vein on our behalf. So if you're unaware, that's Rural County Representatives of California. So that's a 40-county joint powers authority, of which Trinity County is a member. And they are comprised of staff members and then one supervisor from each county. So that's a 40-member board. And delegates from their staff and board members also visit DC multiple times during the year and are advocating with great strength as well on our behalf. So our individual representation there certainly reinforces what they are doing, but those messages are being sent loud and clear. So it certainly isn't for a lack of understanding on their part.
CSAC, I believe, is also contributing to that voice as well as NACO. So it is definitely something that there's a full court press happening right now in an attempt to secure these funds for our rural counties and our rural schools, our rural road departments. So thank you for that. We will now move to item C4, reports from ad hoc, the homeless encampment.
As the only ad hoc member here, I would defer to CAO Ted Hill for his leadership on that group.
Thank you, Chair and Supervisor Cox. So the ad hoc update is as follows. We did meet on the 15th of May. The ad hoc reviewed the draft ordinance, and the ad hoc concurred to bring that draft ordinance forward for full board discussion and consideration. The plan will be to have that draft ordinance on the next meeting agenda for June 3rd, unless some other party comes up. So that is the plan right now. There was also another multi-department and agency camp walk in the Hayfork area since the last board meeting. There are some actions that are being worked. There's some good feedback, some good discussion happened within the ad hoc, and we'll move forward with a few actions. The CAL FIRE vegetation management efforts are completed around the Browns Ranch Bridge area, or Browns Creek Bridge area now. So they're also concluded around the Lance Gulch Bridge area. We're basically running out of time with the fire crews, and they're moving on to actual fire suppression and fire efforts now. So our shift will focus to, some planning for what's next. What can we do next season with the CAL FIRE crews? But that partnership and that effort proved to be very beneficial from my perspective, and we'll continue to work that effort on an ongoing basis. The ad hoc is also working an informational type of press release document that we can share with the public as far as what the ongoing efforts are, what's been happening, and that will be forthcoming in the future. And then we also discussed the recent state press release on homeless encampments and some of the things the state's doing and how that may or may not affect what we're doing. But the state focus is important and interesting, but it's really a much different focus than what we're doing here locally with our efforts. So, but just for everybody's awareness, we were aware of that press release that came out, and we did discuss it in the ad hoc. And then just kind of finally, as I've stated before, just as a reminder, we have made some significant progress in this arena, but this is a very slow, long-term effort. There's no easy solution. There's probably not even really a real solution. There's just some efforts we can make and some progress we can make to make things better for the communities, and that's what we're still focusing on. That's all I've got. Thank you.
And
Any questions from the board?
I just wanted to clarify if I got this right and give some recognition. Is my understanding is that early on when we were doing some of the cleanup efforts, that our sheriff department, who is obviously thinly staffed, volunteered a lot of their own time to go out and do a heavy lifting on the cleanup. Is that accurate?
That is absolutely accurate. I presented some of that information in here with some pictures and stuff. They collected locally here in the Weaverville area approximately 1.2 tons of material, trash, waste, different plastic products and mattresses and couches and beds and all kinds of stuff. And that was taken to the solid waste facility and properly disposed of. The sheriff's office and probation office, who are both, in my opinion, understaffed, if you will, just because of the fiscal realities we're in. They've been actively participating in this, and probation has actually been leading the effort in the camp walks and facilitating that and doing a very, very good job with that. So, thank you specifically to both of those departments in the law enforcement arena.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Just one.
Supervisor Brownfield?
So are we seeing these people asking or volunteering themselves for help? Are we seeing an uptick of improvement there? No, not yet.
I would say overall, no.
Okay.
There are some, eaches, some, every now and then we'll find somebody that is interested in that, but oftentimes there is not an interest. And oftentimes the law enforcement agencies are already aware of the individuals they're running across. There's already been interaction with them. They already know and have turned down the support or the offer of help. But every now and then you do get somebody new, and there is some benefit.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I will say that on the one meeting I went to, a visit before the ad hoc was established, it was quite impressive to see how our staff worked, both the sheriff's department and the, I'll call it HSS Behavioral Health Group, as they interacted with folks to understand their situation, to personalize the offer of support based on what that particular need was. And, you can, as you say, lead the horse to water. And I think there have been some benefits from that, but you still have to have a receiving partner.
Yeah, the receiving partner has to be voluntary, but you never know when somebody's gonna change their mind or when a life event will force them or help them realize, that, hey, they do need some help and there is help there. And as long as we, through our, supporting agencies, offer that and make it very well known that what help is there and when it is, and that those guidelines that they need, they can receive that help under, when they meet those guidelines, that the help is there. It'll be helpful. And, uh, just the realities of it is our numbers are much smaller than other larger jurisdictions. So, we do have the opportunity to know and work with individuals on an each basis and know them personally. Where some of these other larger jurisdictions, you're just dealing with another number, which is different. So we're never going to talk about big numbers being affected, but from a percentage perspective, if we hit one or two people, we can, advocate and help one or two people, from a percentage basis. That's a big deal, and that affects people's lives. That's important.
Yeah, and I would just underscore what Supervisor Weiler was saying in the fact that the kindness and compassion with which these public members are approached, I think best leads toward the outcome CAO Ted Hill was referring to, in that they may change their mind at some point. But I didn't see that happening as readily if they were not approached with these best outcomes and hope for assistance in mind. And I think it's really important to distinguish those two things for the public, because what initiated all this from the beginning was the threat that neighbors felt by a very small percentage of those, choosing to live, or by necessity at this time, living in this manner. That isn't the whole picture. Certainly was a catalyst, but doesn't describe the totality of what's going on.
We will now move into our consent calendar. These items include routine, non-controversial matters and will be acted upon by the board by one roll call motion. If a member of the public has any questions or comments on an item on the consent calendar, they may provide them now. A member of the Board of Supervisors or staff may request an item be pulled and considered separately. With that said, I would like to pull item number D4 and D5.
Like to pull D6, D20, and D21.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. D6.
D6, D20, and D21.
Do we have any public comment on the remaining of the consent calendar? I see none in the room. Is there any online?
I have no raised hands.
Thank you. Do the board have any questions? I will receive a motion at this time.
I move to approve all the remaining items on the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second that.
Supervisor Brownfield,
Aye.
Supervisor Lutweller,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox,
Aye.
Vice Chair Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Thank you.
We will take item D4. I pulled this item as I would like to take time to read the resolution aloud and recognize the members of the Naramuk-Wintu Nation who are in the audience at this time. Item D4 states, a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity in support of the federal recognition and acknowledgement of the Norelmuk Wintu Nation. Whereas the Trinity County Board of Supervisors acknowledges that the Norelmuk Wintu Nation is a band of Wintu Indians who have called Trinity County their home for a millennia. And whereas the Trinity County Board of Supervisors recognize that the Norelmuk Wintu Nation passionately fosters the culture of sensitive environmental resources in their ancestral land, and whereas the Trinity County Board of Supervisors has worked with the Norelmuk Wintu Nation for decades and acknowledged that they are a considerate and engaging stewards committed to collaborating with the county to preserve artifacts, cultural sites, and burial grounds, and steward Trinity County natural resources for holistic and watershed health. Whereas the Trinity County Board of Supervisors acknowledges that the Norelmuk Wintu Nation currently has federal acknowledgement legislation pending in the form of H.R. 619. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the Trinity County Board of Supervisors strongly supports the passage of H.R. 619 and encourages the facilitation of the process to ratify the Norelmuk Wintu Nation as federally recognized Indian tribe. May this duly passed and adopted on this day in May 2025 by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity by motion.
We need to.
I will call for comments.
Well, I would like to move approval of this, but I also was kind of hesitating. I know you're deferring because you are the chair, acting chair today. But I also know your passions for the tribes and would like to ask if you would prefer to make that motion yourself.
Well, and we need public comment.
Yeah, we need to
Yes.
do public comment first.
Is there any public comment on this item? Any online?
I have no raised hands.
I would like to make a motion that we pass item D4 as presented.
Nice, I'll second.
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Carpenter Harris?
Aye.
Supervisor Lutweiler?
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield?
Aye.
Thank you.
We recognize you and we see you. We will now move to item D5, the County Administrative Office to adopt a resolution which supports the federal recognition of the Sonungwe tribe. A resolution of the Board of the Supervisors of the County of Trinity in support of the federal recognition and acknowledgement of the Sonungwe tribe. Whereas the Trinity County Board of Supervisors acknowledges that the Sonungwe tribe has called Trinity County their home for millennial, and whereas the Trinity County Board of Supervisors recognizes the Sonungwe tribe passionately fosters the culture and sensitive environmental resources in their ancestral land, and whereas Trinity County Board of Supervisors has worked with the Sonungwe tribe for decades and acknowledges that they are considerate and engaging stewards committed to collaborating with Trinity County to preserve artifacts, cultural sites, and burial grounds, and store Trinity County natural resources for holistic watershed health. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Trinity County Board of Supervisors strongly supports the federal acknowledgement of the Sonungwe tribe and encourages the facilitation of the process to ratify the Sonungwe Council as a federally recognized Indian tribe. Duly passed and adopted on this day of May 2025 by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity by motion. I would like to make a motion that I'm sorry, public comment? Is there any public comment in the room? You can come to the stand.
I began working on this endeavor in 1989. And at the time I was in my 30s, I'm now 75. And we have a whole group of people who have worked all of their adult life on this, and generations before us who testified before Congress, hoping that one day our tribe would be acknowledged as a federally recognized tribe. There are many benefits to that acknowledgement and on the federal level, but the acknowledgement by Trinity County that had all of us removed in the 1850s and 1860s for you to acknowledge us today that we're still here and that we contribute to the county and that our presence is a benefit is extremely meaningful to us. And it's the first step in us working more cooperatively together. We already work with Public Health Service, OES, VOAD. There are many partnerships that we have in place, and our strongest is with the Norelmic. We work cooperatively on many, many things, and we hope to become more engaged with Trinity County, and I applaud you, our tribe applauds you for this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dennis. More public comment in the room. You can come to the podium if you don't mind.
Didn't realize after you made the resolution and adopted that, that was my opportunity to speak. So thank you, my beautiful friend, tribal elder, for showing me the way. I echo what Dina has said on behalf of Shinamwe tribe. We look forward to working with them in the future as we currently are on many boards and councils that she mentioned. I have to recognize Heidi Carpenter Harris for her efforts, not only in encouraging this to happen for the Native communities of Trinity County, but also her beautiful speech, if you will. I don't think it was a speech at Heritage Day. I think it was her showing her heart and her acknowledgement, not only of the Native community here in Trinity County, but also recognizing the settlers and pioneers of this county, of which we are all a part of. Like she recognized in her talk there that, you know, we are descendants of these ancestors that settled this country or this county, as well as our ancestors that have been here for millennia. So in that recognition, I'd like to give to this Heidi and the board as a whole for your support and all that you are acting on to keep our county safe.
Thank you. We will come down for a picture here in
Yeah.
a moment. And I'll thank you from all of
Alright.
us.
Thank you.
Any comments online?
Donna?
Yes, thank you. I'm Donna Landry Rayleigh, and I'm in Eureka right now. I serve on tribal council for the Norelmic Wintu Nation, and I just want to thank the Board of Supervisors for their attention to the citizens who are of Native ancestry. I so appreciate this acknowledgement, and some of you may know that our legislation has been in process in Washington, D.C. for 3 years now, and it has been recently resubmitted to Congress as HR 619. And Heidi, so grateful for your perspective, your presence, and your influence in bringing awareness about the issues in Trinity County, particularly funding of rural schools, all of the things that will help the county stay strong and stay stable. Thank you each of you so much for your interest and your willingness to step out and speak up on our behalf. Thank you for this time.
Thank you.
I have no additional raised hands.
Okay, thank you. I will now entertain a motion. I would like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution which supports the Sinangwe tribe as written.
I second that motion.
Supervisor Lutwiler,
Aye.
Vice Chair Carpenter Harris,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox,
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield.
Aye.
Thank you.
We will now, is, m- we would like to come down and take a picture with the folks from the tribes if we may for a moment. We will now move on to item D6. County Administrative Office approve amendment number 2 to the employment contract with Trent Tuthill, extending the term to April 18th, 2026, and adding 1 additional week of professional leave to provide county administrative duties. Approximate cost and salary and benefits per month. A step D is $26,685.
Okay.
Chair, I can
You-
address any questions or whatever the board's pleasure is.
Okay.
Supervisor Brownfield?
Thank you, Chair. I want to say that I'm new at this. This is and CAO Tuthill was hired before me. I appreciate everything that you do. And I know you've done a lot for this county. But with the budget the way it is and with things in district.
Supervisor Brownfield, we need to maintain questions only.
Questions only?
Questions only
Okay.
at this time.
Okay, could you tell me what that raise, why you need that raise?
Why I need a
Yeah,
raise?
why you justify the raise?
And just for clarification, I don't believe that's an appropriate question for
It
Mr.
is.
Tuthill. He's the subject of it. It would be to ask fellow board members if you want to talk about that during discussion. We typically don't question
so-
employees on that.
So we talk to the board and have them make comments about, or is there anything that we can say today? Or just say I don't
Yeah, I'm
agree?
sorry, just to clarify, so this particular section is really questions to better understand what's being presented. So if you have a question about how does the process work or any of those sorts of things, then we'll do public comment, then we can have discussion and share opinions. And then we do the vote. Does that help? So you can have the discussion, it's just not right now. Now is just a question for clarity.
Okay, so I guess my question goes back to justification for the raise. Why do you think, I mean, it's not appropriate, but how do we
My
get
concern
at?
is, yeah, he's the employee. He's the one
Okay,
that's.
so what am I
so-
gonna ask to get at the problem of like a raise that I don't agree with?
Then you would probably during discussion after after the item comes back to the board for discussion, you can make that argument.
Okay.
Absolutely.
There's no question that I have. We just want discussion.
I don't have any questions.
Any further questions? Is there any public comment on this item?
I have no raised hands.
I will entertain a motion at this time.
I move to approve item D6 as presented.
I will second. And now we can have discussion.
Okay.
Discussions. Thank you.
So, with the budget, like I said, the budget as it is, I don't think we can afford a raise of that magnitude. That's my opinion. And with all the District 5 things that we need and we're not getting, I don't understand I don't justify the raise. We need that money for the roads.
So my response to that would be with the budget as it is, we cannot afford to not give that raise. There are a plethora of things, county matters and activities, and thoughtful looking to the future, moving items into process that have never even been embarked upon, that are being explored and handled by our current administration that we can't afford to do without. And the inability or the so far, I want to label it as inability. It's currently not seen yet, but hopefully over time, it will become seen, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
And I appreciate everything that he's doing. I do think that we have to watch this budget, and with like I said, with District 5 not getting the services they deserve, we need to watch that budget. That money could be.
By me?
Mhm.
I respect your concerns for the budget, but I would like to point out that even without that statement setting his salary range in this amendment, CAO Tuthill would be entitled to that increase because of the increase that we provided to the Director of Health and Human Services Agency. And the amendment, the original agreement as it's stated indicates that his salary needs to be set at a certain percentage above the highest paid department head. And so it would go there anyways. I would also like to let you know that CAO Tuthill forewent step increases that he was entitled to earlier in the year to help offset budgetary issues. So whether or not you approve the increase in salary the way it's written in this amendment, he's entitled to it, and it will happen anyways because his prior contract already indicates that it will happen. It's just he agreed to take a delay in it until after his evaluation and at this amendment time, but it should have happened back in March, correct?
And yeah, thank you for that clarification, both of the kind of procedural requirement because of previously approved increases, and also acknowledging that when I was chair last year, I spoke with CAO Tuthill and he voluntarily passed on an increase that he was due at that time, if you will. And it's interesting, in the NORTEC arena, I'm currently working with the executive committee and the board on replacement of that executive director. And that executive director, it's an important role, but there are 6 people on staff. And that person receives more compensation than our CAO. And I'm at CSAC, and I'm constantly hearing of counties who are trying to attract a CAO and struggling to do so and then losing them. And so I think we are truly blessed to have a very strong CAO who is leading us in a way that I think our financial position would be much worse if we weren't benefiting from his leadership. And so I fully support it.
To your statement, Supervisor Lutweller, that other jurisdictions are not only trying to attract a CAO, but one of this caliber and this talent, they are quite few and far between, nearly unheard of. We need to recognize the incredible gift and the blessing that we are living under right now and appreciate every day of every month that he remains in this position. Though this contract by the agenda is being extended to April 18th, 2026, because it is an annual agreement, he can terminate this with, I believe, 30 days. So.
I want to make clear that I absolutely appreciate the work that the CAO does. I'm just against an increase in pay. That's it. It has nothing to do with performance right now.
I would like to call for the vote at this time.
Supervisor Lutwiler,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox,
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield,
No.
Vice Chairman Carpenter Harris.
Aye. We will now move to item D20, Transportation, approve an agreement with Geocon Consultants Incorporated to provide exploratory field testing, monitoring, and design services up to $800,000 over the 5-year term of the agreement from the Federal Highway Administration Funds, Federal Emergency Management Funds, and the California RMRA and STIP funds.
Panos is on Zoom.
Will recognize Department Head Panos Kakis, please.
Yes, hello. This is a on-call contract for 2 geotechnical firms, so they can help us whenever we have a disaster. There are times that we have a disaster and federal regulations require us to advertise for a certain amount of time, 3-4 weeks, before we select a consultant, and that can take as much as 3 or 4 or 5 months before we have someone on board. Having someone on call, meaning going through that process that is required through the federal regulations and state regulations, means that we have someone on board to help us. And by having 2 firms on board means if one is too busy or cannot do it at the time that we need them, the other one will be there to take over. That way is going to help expedite the design and all the work that's required for us to complete the construction. Now, for some federal disasters that they're on system roads through federal highways, if you complete the construction with 270 days from the event, that means you can get reimbursed 100%. Not having those consultants aboard, we cannot complete that work. The funds that they are shown as $800,000, those are not funds that we already have. Those would be funds that would be allocated during the specific storms once that storm has been recognized by the governor or by the president. So this is for us. We're preparing. When the disaster strikes, we have someone on board to help us and make sure that we can complete the work in a timely manner. Otherwise, we may have to wait for 6 months, and by that time it would be too late. Somebody needs to look at those sites as soon as possible, and they need to have the geotechnical expertise. We had 4 firms apply, and we selected those 2. They're all capable, but those 2 were the ones with more capabilities and their willingness to work in this area. Any specific questions? I'd be more than happy to answer them.
I do have.
We have a question from Supervisor Litwiler.
So Panos, I think you just said this, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So this is giving you the approval to award up to this amount of money during the 5-year plan or term, if needed to address major projects that come to you. The money would only be expended if there was a major project that required this support. And absent having this authority, then you would have to wait, get estimates, come back to us for approval. And as you said, I think it could mean that then we would lose the opportunity to address things within a timely manner. Am I understanding correctly how this works?
You're absolutely correct. When a disaster strikes, we don't know how safe is the road because we need the special expertise. So we have those people who have the special expertise on board to help us. However, if we had to go farther and finish the design or the remediation of that project, it takes us at least 3 to 4 months before we can get someone on board. And that's too late to see exactly what happened because vegetation tends to grow, things happen, and we will not be able to complete on time. You're absolutely correct. We will not spend any money that we don't have. This is once the storm has been declared, then we have the people to go on board and help us do the work, because once a storm is declared, then funding also becomes available.
Okay, and then
Just to bring that little piece out there that you mentioned about the funding, um, the storm will be declared. When the storm is declared, we activate these folks that we have these agreements with to perform the task necessary to fix the problem that was caused by a declared storm, which means once it's declared either by the federal government or the state of California, emergency funds from those two places become available for us to do this road work.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
good question.
Yes, Supervisor Brownfield?
So in your in-house engineers, just to make clear, so that these are outside engineers that are going to help you. And you're saying, why do we have to go externally for extra engineers? I know we have some in-house, so just explain why you're paying another firm.
We have some in-house that are very, very busy. However, let's go to the medical field. It make a little more sense. What you have in-house is maybe general practitioners or internal medicine. If you need surgery, you don't go to your chiropractor or to your dentist. You go to the surgeon. Those people have specific capabilities in geotechnical engineering. They also have the equipment to do the testing for soil analysis, the required labs to do the analysis. The county cannot afford to keep those pieces of equipment because they cost thousands of dollars, or maintain a lab to do the soils testing that's going to cost us maybe $100,000 to $150,000 just to maintain in order to do the testing. Those firms have those equipment and they have those specialists. So the dentist won't be very good to perform heart surgery. So those are the specialists in soils or structural engineering or whatever it's needed at the time.
Thank you very much for the clarification. I think that helps people watching too to understand. So thank you.
Supervisor Cox, any questions? Do we have any public comment on this item?
Madam Chairman, member Board of Supervisors, my name is Tom Waltz. Just a couple comments. When an emergency happens and it's declared by the state to be an emergency, there is an opportunity for immediate action to occur to protect life and limb. So for example, if there's a road failure and additional engineering work may need to be done, it doesn't have to be done in such a way that it precludes you from doing emergency action. So the staff that is currently on the board or hired by the board and works for the engineering department, road department, can take emergency action. So if something is broken, you can do temporary fixes. You can put in temporary bridges. You can move dirt. You can do all kinds of things to reopen those roads for, it gives you a time frame of being able to do an action, protect life and property, and then consider what other materials, what other expertise do you need. I don't think you need to have somebody on retainer saying that these are the people we're going to have do that work if it occurs. There are lots of geo-consulting firms available that, given a few months' notice or whatever it might take, would be available. So it seems like you're kind of limiting yourself when you say we are going to address it by having these particular geoengineers on retainer ready to act on our behalf, when you already have that option as any emergency action. So I'm just letting you know that doing what you're proposing to do isn't necessary to protect life and property. You do have other options.
Thank you very much.
Any further public comment in the room? Or CIO Tuthill, would you like to address that?
I would like to address that. And Panos, if you could also address it maybe from a little bit more of a county engineer perspective, but the public comment is right too. And that's not what these geotechs, these engineers would be doing. We do have, usually it's up to 270 days to go out and provide immediate life, health, safety remediation actions on a road. And that's what we in fact do with our internal road crews. At times, if we don't have the capacity with our internal road crews, we have gone out under an emergency contract and hired additional capabilities, whether that's large excavators, whether that's dump trucks, whether that's bringing in more material and personnel to provide those services that are required to immediately remediate that life, health, safety issue. So we do in fact do that, and that is not what these efforts would be taking the place of. These efforts are for the longer term proper fix. Just because you go out and you put a piece of dirt on a place to make a road travelable doesn't mean it's fixed.
Right.
And you still have to do certain actions within the appropriately declared emergency time frame to be eligible for that federal and state funding. So the public comment is not inaccurate, but it's not complete either.
It's my understanding as well that you have to prove a damage dollar amount when there's a large, we have to
Correct.
be able
That's-
to know what we're asking for.
Correct. That's all part of the evaluation process and the financial reimbursement process while you're actually doing some of the work in a true life, health, safety environment.
So it's my understanding that having that really helps make a determination as to whether or not our county qualifies for those those dollars that refund us, as if we can show adequate damage due to the natural disaster, whether it be fire, earthquake, what have you. By being able to prove this, then we can say, yes, we should also qualify under this disaster because of the dollar amount and damages that were done during that time.
Those are all correct statements.
Thank you.
And additionally, I mean, as another example, an issue we're currently fighting right now with FEMA is not a non-reimbursement for storm damage repairs that were done in a declared emergency. They're fighting back on what they feel should be reimbursed based upon the conditions and the analysis that was provided.
Understood.
And I guess one other clarification then for either CEO Tuthill or Director Kokas. Generally, when we have storm damage, most of the counties around us also have storm damage and more than one. And so everyone is going to, at that point, be going after the same resources to try to get support. So I would assume that this is streamlining that process for us so that we don't have to go at that point and say, hey, can you help us? And they say, no, we're already under agreement with 3 other counties and we can't help you right now. This would put us in that position. Am I understanding this correctly?
That is correct.
Okay.
These are companies that would have already committed to us to be on call for us, so we wouldn't have to compete with other jurisdictions who are going after a limited resource pool.
Thank you.
And just to add to it, if there is a storm, we can do the Band-Aid solution with our crews and our engineers. However, like the CAO Tuthill said earlier, we need to provide a detailed estimate and probably 2 or 3 options when we apply for federal funds. They want to see which one would be the least expensive. Those take a lot of time and they take a lot of expertise. However, once we have to do the more intermediate repairs, not the final repairs, there is a lot of specialty work that needs to be done. We have to prepare plans and specs. We do not have the staff to do that. We cannot go out to construction with a contractor as an emergency just to wave arms because we're going to get poor products, nor are going to get reimbursed because we do not have plans and specs or estimates. So having those people on board with all the resources, we can have a good set of plans and specs to go to work within the construction season. If we have to wait 5 to 6 months to get an engineer on board and then another 2 to 3 months to prepare plans, would be December of the following year. We will not be able to do any construction. That's why we need to have them on board to save about 4 to 5 months in the selection process. And if we do not go through that federal selection process, we will not be reimbursed.
Thank you. Any further questions of,
Just one more clarification. So there's two firms that we're paying 800,000.
We're not
maybe.
paying that.
We're not paying that, but it's up to. So in my,
but we still wouldn't be paying
No,
that because it would come from federal dollars and state dollars.
well, RMRA too. Those are funds that we're using for our rural maintenance, which is fine. Okay, so what I'm saying though is that's a lot, it's just up to 800, two firms, that's 1.6 million. And those funds, that I understand, the dentist for the surgery thing. Although that's a lot of money that could be going to.
Those funds cannot be used for pothole maintenance. They cannot be used for tree trimming or brushing or anything else. They only have to be used for disaster repairs to a specific site. You cannot deviate from the specific site, otherwise we will not be reimbursed.
Okay. Point taken.
Any further questions? I'll ask for a motion.
Oh, I
Oh.
think, did you check online for?
Oh,
We got kind of back and forth with a response to that
did.
first public comment.
We did not. I have no raised hands.
I will now entertain a motion.
I move to approve as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion on the board? Seeing none?
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Leutwiler?
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield?
Aye.
Vice Chair Carpenter Harris?
Aye.
Thank you.
We will now move to item D21, Transportation. Approve an agreement with MGE Engineering Incorporated to provide exploratory field testing, monitoring, and design services, up to $800,000 over a 5-year term of the agreement from the Federal Highway Administration Funds, Federal Emergency Management Agency Funds, and California RMA, RA, and STIP road funds. Road Commissioner,
The same
Reynolds?
comment as the previous one.
following the same,
Yes.
basically the same, it's just for a different type of service.
No, same type of service. They have complete services. We have two firms. They're both going to give us a proposal based on what has to be done and who is available. If we have one firm, then if they're too busy, they won't be able to give us the services. But having two, we can make sure we have the services right away rather than wait. I have done that in other counties for many, many years.
Do we have any board questions?
Nope.
Any public comment on this item? Seeing none in the room,
I have no raised hands.
I will entertain a motion at this time.
Move to approve as presented.
Well, second.
Leutwiler?
Aye.
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Carpenter Harris?
Aye.
Thank you.
We will now take an adjournment of 11 minutes and return exactly at 11 a.m. Welcome back to today's Trinity County Board of Supervisors meeting. We will now re-enter the agenda at item E, our public hearings. E1, Community Development, Environmental Health, conduct a public hearing to consider introducing and waiving the reading of an ordinance amending Trinity County Code Section 2.64.050, enacting fees related to the Trinity County Environmental Health California Unified Program Agency fees, estimated revenue to the environmental health in the amount of 157,000, and eligibility for between 60,000 and 100,000 in grant funds.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair and Board of Supervisors. Christy Anderson, Trinity County Environmental Health Division. So this would be adding to our current fee schedule, the current state adopted fees for the CUPA programs. We are the last county to apply for the CUPA program as an oversight agency. And because we were the first one in over 20 years to apply, they had to, it was kind of inventing the wheel a bit. So to give you a brief explanation of what the CUPA program is the 6 regulatory programs that oversee underground storage tanks, above ground storage tanks for hazardous materials business plans, CalARP facilities, which are large hazmat and dangerous chemical facilities. And so Trinity County Environmental Health has been in transition, taking on this role in the last 12 months, well, 11 months so far. Do you have any questions for me?
I do.
Supervisor Cox?
Yeah. To clarify the statement that you just made, it sounds like the other counties that have preceded us in taking this action step are 20 years our predecessor.
That is correct.
It's wild. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for bringing us current.
And congratulations for getting certified. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Any questions? Okay. No further board questions. We'll now enter into public comment. Thank you. Any comment in the room? Any public comment online?
I have no raised hands.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion.
Go ahead. I'll move to adopt the fee schedule as presented.
I will second.
Supervisor Leutwiler,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox,
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the hard work.
Yes. Must feel good. Get that done. We will now move into county matters. These items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed alphabetically by department. A member of the board, staff, or public may request that an item be heard out of order. Do we have any need to hear an item out of order? Seeing none, we will move to item F1, Board of Supervisors. Discuss and/or adopt a resolution endorsing the policies and recommendations in the guidance document titled Collaborative Strategy for Federal Land Management in Trinity County.
So I asked this item to be agendized. While it is under county matters, which represents items that are non-routine and non-controversial, which this item certainly fits into, I would say that it's a delight to see this item at the point where all controversy is in the past. And the white paper that you see before you has been agreed upon by every entity and agency on the entire spectrum of opinion. And I will turn to our Trinity County Resource Conservation District Manager, Kelly Sheen, to introduce the item and answer any questions.
Good morning, Supervisors. Acting Chair, Heidi Carpenter Harris. I want to thank you for having us, taking up this item and having us here to discuss a little bit about the evolution of this particular paper and its meaning to all of the partners that have been working so hard to create
a workflow for work to be done out in our forests here in Trinity County. My name is Kelly Sheen. I'm the Executive Director for the Trinity County Resource Conservation District. I am also co-facilitator for the Trinity County Collaborative Group, and I was asked to represent and introduce this paper, the collaborative strategy for federal land management within Trinity County, and excited to be supported here by many members of the actual collaborative itself, as well as our partners with the Shasta Trinity National Forest. As is discussed in our cover letter, that's part of the materials in front of you, this was the culmination of many months of sort of reworking, I'd say actually years, because this has been sort of going on since, in my experience, since probably the large-scale impacts that we've seen through fire and the such as the August Complex, and the Monument, and the river, and some of the other fires downriver on the Humboldt County side. Talking about how we address the matter of management of federal lands within our county. And as the collaborative has been in place for approximately, I'd say 13 years, I think 2012 was the inception. There have been many successes in creating a situation where we are moving forward collectively as a community to provide guidance to our federal land managers. There's been a couple of other instances where we had come to a collective agreement on linear features, the treatment of linear features, whether that was roadside fuel breaks, ridgetop fuel breaks, et cetera. And then through the beginnings of some of the significant fires in 2015, 2018, 2020, that's changed to, fire breaks to fire kill the fuel breaks along ridgetops, et cetera. And this it has taken into account, a need that we have to be addressing these issues at scale, landscape level scale. And as I've said, our partners, both with the BLM, Forest Service, Shasta Trinity National Forest, Six Rivers National Forest, have been incredibly receptive to getting and acquiring this social license that these collaborative processes actually provide. And I would like to, field any questions you have about this particular paper at this time.
Are there any questions on the board? We may bring you back during some discussion, but for now, we'll seek public comment in the room.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly. This is the time for public comment in the room if we have any.
Members of the board, my name is Tom Waltz. I'm a member of the collaborative. It's interesting, if you think of Trinity County, we're a 50-50 county. And that is, if you look at our election results every year, it is just a toss-up as to where we're going as a county. And to have a management strategy that incorporates a real variety of thought and process that went into this, it was more than not a difficult, but it was a negotiation, just like you would see in a 50-50 county, in that people have very widely different opinions as to how our forest should be managed. And when this document was finally prepared, it incorporated all those different viewpoints. And I just want to encourage the board that recognize that there was a lot of a variety of thought that went into this. And our encouragement to the federal land management agencies is that we're doing this to try and make our county a better place to live. That was the bottom line of what the whole aspect of this operation is about, is if we can get land management done in a way that protects health and safety and reduces the number of fires and provides jobs, we've done a good thing and made our county a better place to live. And that's what we tried to do.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Joseph Bauer from West Peanut, a member of the collaborative. And I know some of you weren't here when this effort got started. In 2012, the Board of Supervisors formed this collaborative. In the last 12 years, we've probably done about 70 field trips and probably another 70 meetings where we sat down and hashed out details. And what you have before you today is a result of all that effort. It's, I think, pretty unique that we've had this much agreement amongst diverse interest. And I think that your passing this resolution may help us in the future to get more funds to maintain Forest Service staff here. If it looks like the county has their act together, we're going to succeed better than if we don't. So I urge you to pass the resolution as it is, and thanks for your interest.
Thank you. I'm glad you clarified you were from West Peanut. We may have been confused. Any further public comment in the room?
Well, I'll put my oar in here too. My name is Kenneth Baldwin. I've been in this county since '72. I started a forestry consulting business in '77, which I still work at. I'm a member of the collaborative, the Trinity County Fire Safe Council, and the Weaverville Community Forest Steering Committee. I've often found myself over the decades in kind of between this guy in the orange here and this guy with the white beard, trying to find a resolution for these timber wars that we've had. And I'm really happy to see that we finally have come together and we agree with a kind of land management that I think is going to benefit the forest and the community. So that's pretty much, and I worked on this this resolution, this paper.
Any further public comment?
Not sure if I count as the public.
Sure enough.
Okay. I just want to say, we have all kind of been pulling on a rope, trying to get more done here in Trinity County to reduce the risk to our communities from wildfire and to contribute positively to the economy in Trinity County. And I just want to let you know that this white paper shows kind of all of us coming together to pull on the same rope in the same direction. And there was a great deal of work that went in by the collaborative, by each of the members. I appreciate the work of our staff as well, but this definitely represents a good illustration and a document that demonstrates all of us pulling in the same direction. This is exactly the kind of work that we need to get done on your national forest. So I just wanted to take the time to come up here and share that with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further public comment in the room? Any online?
Larry?
Yes, thank you. Larry Glass with SAFE, and I just wanted to chime in with Tom and Joseph and Tara and Kenneth. This has been a labor of love. We worked on this for 12 years. It's been a lot of work, a lot of field trips, a lot of meetings, but I think I would have to say it's been a pleasure to get to know people that I was adversarial with in the past and get to know them and become on friendly terms with them now. And I think this document is a result of a lot of give and take on everybody's part, but I think it's a very good document. And I just want to urge you to support it.
Any other public comments online?
I have no additional raised hands.
At this time, I will entertain a motion.
I would like to move approval of the resolution as presented.
I'll second that.
Board discussion?
Yeah, I would just have a couple of comments if I could. Today seems to have a couple of themes to it, and one of them is over a decade long of effort that this has been, where we've seen our decades long effort of our tribal partners reaching a level of acknowledgement. The other theme is exceptional staff at this point in time. We have that within our county administration, and we have that within our Forest Service. This is a unique era in the history of Trinity County. The coming together on this paper, there's only one sentence in the cover letter that would help you to really know this, that our Forest Service partners also put their stamp of agreement to this document. And while this document being passed by the board does not require the Forest Service to act in any particular way, what we have is an opportunity at this season of time that we have an incredible forest supervisor. We have an incredible Weaverville District Ranger and staff beneath her that are dedicated to the same goals and values and hard work that the public generally is committed to and wants to see happen. With that, I just commend the collaborative effort. And I would remind us, while this is a bit tangential, 1 year plus ago, sitting in the Governor's Wildfire Task Force meeting, where folks from distances away were there, our Forest Service leadership in collaboration with our Resource Conservation District and our Watershed Research and Training Center sat center stage amongst statewide leadership, explaining to others how it is that Trinity County made it to the goal of such tight-knit collaboration that we were able to implement an enormous amount of federal funding that came because we were designated as one of the new 11 priority landscapes within the state of California, awarded federal funds that, if well implemented, would then see further funding, both of which happened. And that is thanks to our leadership, Forest Supervisor Rachel Berkey and our Weaverville District Ranger Tara Jones. And in those efforts moving forward, we see ourselves poised with more work having been done and more work planned and being implemented than we have ever seen in the great need that we have since our historic campaign fires have begun to hit our state. And I applaud you deeply. Thank you.
Yes. Very good. Very good. Well said, Jill.
Thank you.
Any other?
I just a quick anecdotal thing. I remember being on a tour up in the North Lake area just within the last couple of years. And it was interesting because there was, I would say, healthy and respectful debate about how to best carry something out. And then within the last month or so, I was on another one in Lewiston area, and the message was, oh yeah, we're all like completely in agreement. And then to come forward to this place to say, oh, we are fully in agreement. We have completely laid this out, and we have created a pathway forward where I'm sure there'll still be some little, gives and takes as we move forward. But this just seems like a huge step forward for us. And again, I think you've stated it, but I don't think it can be overstated. The effort that had to go in to finding this common ground, I applaud you. You all need to run for the board.
Just an example to the world, what you can do when you compromise. I think that's the biggest problem right now in the world is no compromise. So I love to see it. And I love this document. It's a work of art, really, knowing what both sides had to go through to get there. So thank you very much.
I will just add to the voice of the congratulatory theme today on this particular. I think that what we're experiencing today and in this letter and in this collaboration, if you will, is truly the spirit in which the collaborative was created. I believe that it holds that. The comment that we want to make Trinity County a great place to live, I think also speaks to the holistic understanding of our communities with the landscapes in which we live and thrive. I can remember going to collaborative meetings when they very first started. The room was just packed, right? We had to have them at the VFW hall. There's people sitting on the sides knitting, and like all of this stuff was going on in the room. And then it kind of narrowed and narrowed and narrowed, and the grinding just kept happening. I think I've probably sat in a lot of meetings with most of you folks, and it has truly been a learning experience, for me, watching how positive, active disagreement, dialogue, and recognizing that just because someone holds a different value than you doesn't mean that it's a bad value. It's just a different value. And just the different times walking around in the forest and those types of conversations break off to the side, and hats come off and that proverbial itch, and then the hat goes back on, as people think, and duff gets kicked around on boots, and tailgate lunches happened. And somehow through the midst of all of that humanity standing out in our natural resources, we have come to this grand conclusion that together we can do a whole lot more than we can do separately. So I am super grateful to see this, and I would like to take the time before we vote to actually read the resolution aloud for those who haven't had a chance to read it in the documents. A resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity supporting the policies and recommendations in the collaborative strategy for federal land management in Trinity County. Whereas roughly 3/4 of the land of Trinity County is managed by federal agencies, and whereas federal managers of this land have requested advice from Trinity County Collaborative Group for planning and implementing programs that successfully balance ecological benefits, legal requirements, and local economic, aesthetic, and fire safety needs. And whereas the collaborative group has approved a set of policies and recommendations developed by local foresters, environmental advocates, timber industry representatives, recreation enthusiasts, and other citizens in consultation with agency personnel to add to the agency in implementing successful land management programs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Trinity County Board of Supervisors endorses the policies and recommendations set out in the document Collaborative Strategy for Federal Land Management in Trinity County, and requests federal land management agencies to apply them into Trinity County. Duly passed on this day, May 20th, 2025, by the Board of Supervisors of Trinity County. May we have the vote, please?
Supervisor Brownfield.
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Leutwiler.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you, for everything. We now move to item F2, Board of Supervisors. Receive a status update on the Tourism Development Advisory Board actions and plans. Supervisor Leutwiler?
Yeah, so just a question, first of all, is it more comfortable for me to sit here or go up there? Okay. So, we put this on the agenda because when I was covering this in, give it a second.
Just a moment for the room to clear, yes.
When I was giving updates about this during my supervisor district updates, we were getting into a little bit lengthier discussion than we should for a non-agendized item. So that's the reason for it being here. And the documents that were included in the agenda provide a sample of what we've been meeting as the Tourism Development Advisory Board with. And so I just want to kind of walk you through the high level down to where we are today. So first of all, we began this initiative because there was a belief that if we could generate additional funds to drive tourism, that would benefit businesses and the economy here in Trinity County. As those businesses would thrive, then more money would be being spent here, which means more tax money would be collected, and that would then benefit our ability to run the county, but indirectly instead of just a tax directly. And so this advisory board was put together. Each of us appointed someone, and then Supervisor Gogan and I have been the appointees from the board. And so there's 7 of us that meet. We felt the need to establish an ad hoc committee because in these settings, as we see here, with a 3-minute limit on comments, we started to have people show up to the meetings, which is great, but you could tell they felt cut off. I'm the business lodging owner and you're only giving me 3 minutes to talk. And so we set up the ad hoc committee because now they can have meetings in which the Brown Act does not limit their time and their level of engagement. And so we've been starting to have those. Also, that ad hoc committee can meet and collaborate in a more intensive way on things in between our board meetings. And that way we're making progress a little bit faster. That said, the progress is not fast. And the state that we're in right now is we have gone through the process of documenting almost all of the components of the plan that the lodging business owners would have to decide upon when they decide to sign or not sign the petition. And so we're in the mode now of polling all these lodging business owners to find out what is their level of support for the plan as described. And the key components are things like it's a 5-year term, it's lodging businesses, it's countywide, it's a 3% assessment, and then there is a description that you see in the documents that shows here's how for the first year the money would be allocated to be spent. And one of the big things about that, and there's been some conversation about it, is you can only spend the money in the ways that you describe. So if you don't include that, you can't spend the money that way. And yet if you included everything, then you also have to say how you're allocating the money, and then you split it up so small that there's nothing impactful to do with it. And so the group focused on things like marketing and advertising, events. They can actually help fund events if they chose to, and some administration, because you have to administer funds and all those sorts of things, and signage. So lots of different ways that they thought were appropriate, but still within a fairly limited but generalized set of categories. The money, if this is approved, would be collected by the county as they collect TOT and passed through to a nonprofit. And that nonprofit would have a board made up of people from the lodging business arena. And that set of board members is another thing that we have to lock down before we go to petition. So those are some of the key things we're doing. We've got to finalize the naming of the new nonprofit, finalize what we're going to put forward as the slate of board members, make any adjustments that we think are necessary to the terms of that plan, because that's what people are saying yes or no to. And then we can move forward. And again, what we have to do to be successful is achieve greater than 50% of a weighted vote. So if I am operating something and I collected 10% of the TOT funds in the last 12 years, my vote counts as 10% of the vote. If you have a 1-bedroom Airbnb and you collected 0.01%, your vote counts as 0.01%. And so that's how it gets weighted. The advisory board does not have the information about whose vote counts for how much, because that's proprietary confidential information. Civitas has it because they signed a non-disclosure agreement, so they can have it to guide us to say, based on what you're telling me of the support you have, and when I see petition signatures, I can now do the calculations and say, you're at 30%, you're at 40%, you're at 60%. So that's how we inform ourselves, but it still protects the confidential information of the businesses. Let's see. We have had very mixed feedback. I think one example of that was there was a person that is involved in lodging business who started a change.org petition to oppose what was, well, I would say, what they thought was being done. And we spoke, and explained what we really were doing. That person came to not the meeting yesterday, but the one before that, and had her chance to ask questions, and we had a chance to respond. And when I followed up next time, she said, "Oh, I'm completely for this and I want to be on the board." So we've had some success, but we still have some people that just look at it, much like we've heard in other tax things. It's a tax. I don't want it. I don't care if I don't have to pay it. I don't want it. And even to the point of people that have said, there's nothing to support here in tourism. We don't have a lake. We don't have a river. Nobody comes here to do those things anyway. So you just have all the perspectives. And we're just trying to be receptive to what everybody's opinion is and what everybody's view is. But the main focus of this time period is to get the information out, make sure that what we're putting forward as a petition is what that audience feels is the best representation of something for them to approve or not. Because one of the feedback we got also was, who are you sitting up here to decide what we as lodging business owners should do or pay or how the money should be used? And our message is, we're deciding what to put forward to you to give us feedback on, not what the final outcome is. We're just trying to do that heavy lifting because we've sat in here now for hours and hours and hours and hours, which we didn't want to make you do. But now all you have to do is say, I don't like 3%, I want 4% or 2%. And then we'll change it. And then that's what you guys will vote on. So that's the way we're trying to do this. And again, as with anything like this, the reference to 50-50 state or 50-50 county, we're having mixed. And the general is that it's I think it's kind of like CEO Tuthill was saying about Secure Rural Schools Act. It may still be a long shot, but I'm actually feeling still optimistic because of things like the person representing a pretty good share of the votes saying, I went from a change.org to oppose it to once there was a good understanding of it. Hey, I love this. I want to be on the board. So I'll stop there and just see what questions you have, because that's where we kind of got in trouble last time, is we were just going too deep into the questions and answers.
We will now entertain board questions.
Do you have a projected date that you think the comfort level will have been reached and you're ready to go out to petition?
Yeah, I asked the board that last night because they're primarily the ones doing the outreach, and they said they would like to plan for June 15th to actually start the petition. We had originally planned to start in May, and what we found was that we needed more time to get out and do the polling and get the feedback before we start the petition. And so that puts us about a month behind schedule. So if we're starting mid-June, we still have to then now get physical signatures, but we will have already talked to people to know whether they're supportive or not and what changes we needed to make. So then I think it should be a somewhat streamlined process. So I'm thinking that we could be to the board probably in August, September, to, if we got enough votes for the board to have a hearing about it, and then to, hopefully, give it the stamp of approval. And then part of the change that we did already make based on feedback was, instead of it immediately going into effect, it would not go into effect until January of next year. And that is because there were some lodging business owners saying, hey, that would be really tough for you in the middle of my busy season to make me suddenly figure out how I'm implementing a 3% assessment on top of everything else I have in my systems, and how am I going to add that to my invoices, and all that stuff. And so that was an easy change. It just delays 4 or 5 months the income coming in, but it's more important that it's something that people feel good about and can successfully implement.
A few follow-up questions.
Mm-hmm.
So these physical signatures that then are needed once you begin that process mid-June, are those physical signatures the vote?
Yes.
Okay. And when you say the board will approve it, can you clarify? In my mind, that is the tourism board that we created, not this board.
No, there will be a board for the new nonprofit approved through that petition. If once they sign that petition, gets enough votes, then that board will now be in place for the district. But just like with LAFCO things and so forth, the Board of Supervisors still has the authority to say, yes, we approve what you've done. So we still have a role where we host a public hearing, and then we say, yes, we're giving the stamp of approval to this, much like we had, do other special districts and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And to that point, LAFCO's involved in this as well?
No.
They're not. Okay. Right. And then how are the funds holding out? Will more money be needed for Civitas to complete the project?
Well, I'm going to check with Civitas to see if it's possible for us to put a pause with them. Because while we're in this next polling mode, I don't think we're going to need them to do a lot with and for us. And so if we can put a pause, that would give us another month on the back end, and then we may not need any more money. Otherwise, we might need to ask for one more month's worth of money, which is like, I can't remember, it's 5,000 or 6,000.
Okay.
And again, the advisory board did decide that when we had given a general indication that we might be willing to support more than that to expand it, they said, no, we don't need that. We don't need to expand it. And so we don't need that money, but we may need like this one more month.
And if they would put a pause on it, and then you would be projecting out saying, okay, on the back end, we might need one more month. At that point, would you know by petition signature results whether you were headed towards success?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be putting out potentially another $5,000 to $6,000, not knowing.
Well, yeah, so what we're looking for this next 30 days is this polling period. And that's where I'm kind of saying, I don't know that we need a lot of Civitas support, so if I could pause it now. Whereas when we start to get the petition signatures, now we may need their support. And to run through and to process and so forth. And so then once we have the petition signatures, there's still work to do then. Now we have to prepare everything for the hearing and so forth, and that's when we may need their help again.
Okay.
So that's, and again, I haven't looked at the terms of the contract that closely yet, based on last night's discussion, to see, we probably signed something that says it's for this period, this 6 months, it's sequentially, and so we just have to add a month at the end, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, just thanks to you and to the whole advisory board for their work. This has been quite an effort and a pretty heavy lift.
Yeah, you're welcome. And truly for them, it's very true. They are, they're not used to this. So they're having to sit up here and operate within our requirements, and they're having to do a lot of outreach, and they're taking the brunt like we often do when we're trying to put something forward. And they didn't, I don't think, probably fully understand what they were signing up for, but they're all sticking with it and going through. And they had a webinar recently that was kind of watch and listen and ask questions, but it's hard to interact. And then last night at the Weaverville Hotel, they had open house, if you will. I don't know how many people showed up. I couldn't go because of Brown Act concerns. There would be too many of us. And then they're planning some of those at other places. Straw House, I think, was one that they mentioned. I'm not sure if they're going to do one out in Hayfork. I would imagine Dana Hauser is part of the ad hoc committee. So we're trying to do some group things where we can do it without the Brown Act concerns, and then we're doing individual outreach. And then to the extent that the supervisors have someone that represents their district, we can still collaborate with them on reaching the people within our own district. And of course, outside of our district too, if we want. But we're just trying to be careful that we want collaboration, we want to engage, but we have to be careful of the Brown Act because this is a controlled meeting or process.
Any more questions?
Oh, I'm sorry, one last thing. So when CAO Tuttle and I spoke, the initial agreement and the way it reads right now within that plan is that 2% of the money collected would come to the county for the service of collecting the money in the first place.
Understood.
And much like we collect TOT today. But when CAO Tuttle and I were speaking, his initial conversations with Terry McBrayer are that is almost certainly not going to cover our costs.
Okay.
And so I put forward to the advisory board last night that, we may need to look at increasing that to 5% would be a safe number. I think we're willing to maybe look at 4% and know that we're have a little bit of room, we might even be able to put in something that allows for some adjustment of that over time if as appropriate, or just commit to 4% for 5 years and it won't be too big of a hit, I don't think. But what we're trying to acknowledge is we obviously have very limited staff who already struggle to get everything done that they're asking to be done. And now you're going to throw in a new requirement for people to pass along an assessment. And that's likely to run into some hurdles. And so do we have the staff to do that? And should the county bear the burden of that? Or should this, if you know, if it's the money we're doing it because it's delivering this money, shouldn't that process pay for that effort?
Agreed. Is there any alternative to the county doing that work?
Supervisor Lutweiler and I just kind of talked a little bit about, there could be the possibility of the nonprofit doing the collection and the work. Then you would have to look at probably inefficiencies of two organizations collecting a similar type of assessment fee, dollar amount, two separate processes going on in parallel. Would you want to combine those two together for efficiency purposes? I've, like was stated, I've conversed with the treasurer tax collector, and we do have the software already. We do have the processes in place already to collect TOT. Some of my initial concern would be if members choose not to pay and they become delinquent, then what do we do? And then how's the county looked as that entity going after, a quote delinquent individual who is, or company, who is part of this district? Again, there's pros and cons to everything. I think it's doable. I do like the 4% better than the 2%, but if it does get passed, I think it's something we can collectively work, but just have that recognition that, there is an additional ask from staff to work through this in an already, fairly thin treasurer tax collector office.
And then I guess in response to that, and I see your point of efficiencies, and it absolutely does make sense. I am concerned, as you stated, about having to chase down delinquencies and what that does to our budget. But I think my deeper point would be, Supervisor Lutweiler, if you think that there can be great success in messaging to the community broadly that the county did not impose a 4% tax. You see my point?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a service being provided to provide efficiencies and help with what is being instigated and adopted outside of the county.
And I think we certainly should be able to message that very effectively, because the bottom line is, what you're saying is to achieve the 96% of the money that will be collected, you're going to pay 4% for someone to collect it on your behalf. And the bottom line is, if that nonprofit had to hire someone to do that work, it would be way more than 4% of that amount. The county has efficiencies because of, as was described, already having the systems, already having the context, already having the processes, but it still is going to be extra effort that should be covered.
Yes, I agree with that.
And one last thing that was mentioned last night, which was interesting, was, well, does this mean that once this is approved, then the board will pull back the TOT funding from the tourism funded partners? And I said, well, there's been no discussion of that. I said, I can't speak to what future boards will do. But I said, in approving the money to make this happen, or hopefully make this happen, there was never a part of the discussion that said, and then we'll get to take back the 70,000 that we pass on through TOT.
No.
But again, I was making no promises. I'm unable to make any promises. And I don't think it would be appropriate for us to do that either. It's, but there was that concern that, well, gosh, if I approve this, if I support this through my petition signature, and it leads to that money being taken away from the other groups, now all these other groups don't have money, just the lodging business owners have money, and am I worse off or better off? And so I thought, it was valid, interesting concern, and I just want to make sure you're aware of it.
Thank you.
Do we have,
Yeah,
everyone's
thank you.
fine? Well, now, public comment in the room? Any public comment online? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. I apologize.
In
And
that- in
here
that
you
short
are.
you didn't see him.
Here you are, in bright orange.
Yeah. When the committee starts doing the petition, Civitas definitely has to be involved at that time. So, that's something you need to remember. And also the people who book rooms, collect a TOT, it would be better for them to collect the T-bid also. That way it's all done at one time. So I think that definitely needs to be collected at the same time as the TOT.
Thank you. Any online?
I have no raised hands.
Thank you. I'll now entertain a motion.
I don't think we need one,
No,
right?
nothing for this one.
Information item.
Yep.
All right, everyone settled then. We move to item F3, Community Development Building, introduce and waive the reading of an ordinance amending Trinity County Code Section 15.04, adding new definitions and building permit exemptions that conform to the California Building Code, including the exemption of agricultural structures. Welcome.
Hello, Madam Vice Chair and
sir.
board members. I'll be pretty quick with this one, honestly. So when I assumed the role of building official, my main goal was to come in and try to find ways that we could really help our community members while still maintaining, health and safety. And so this was one of those ways that I think we can do a lot of that. This originally was brought forward by former District 5 Supervisor Dan Frazier at the December 17th, 2024 board meeting. And essentially it was brought back to staff to make some edits and update, in terms of there were some hazards that people wanted to make sure were addressed, and also make sure that zoning was addressed. So I have been working very hard on this, trying to make sure that we could include everything that we can think of while still ensuring, again, that public health and safety. That's the big one for me. And just a quick, in terms of what type of structures these would be, we'd be looking at things like wood barns, hoop houses and greenhouses were one of the big ones. It's a more agricultural focused structures. So through the letter of intent that the individuals provide to the department, that's how we determine whether or not it fits the overall intent of the ordinance. And that's kind of it. So if you guys got any questions, I'm here.
Board questions?
Yeah, I don't know, Cody, if my email made its way to you because I didn't include you in the direct distribution. You kind of spoke to what kind of buildings.
Yeah.
So could I just go through my checklist and just see, I'm trying to get a little bit more clarity about what does and doesn't fall within those parameters. So I had barn, animal shelter, hay feed storage shelter. A curveball is a covered arena.
Covered arena, I don't necessarily know if I'd have to really think on that one because it would be, to me, it's really that human habitation aspect of it. So I'd really have to look at it in terms of how much interaction in terms of having people in that we'd be talking about, because that I think is going to dictate a lot of it.
And I'm not, in this case, I'm more checking than trying to promote.
Yeah.
But I just started to think about things people might ask for. So like in my wife's world of equestrian sport, covered arenas are great because then you can ride all winter long and you're not getting, it's for the horses, but it's also for the rider on the back of the horses and
Right.
whatever else somebody might do with a covered arena.
Yeah.
Wood storage shelter. Yes. Hoop house, you said yes. I call it a drying shelter. I'm not good on the terminology, but the buildings that are used often for the cannabis drying and so forth. Could be other things that are dried in them as well. Storing mushrooms and all those sorts of things. Greenhouses, root cellar.
Root cellar, I'd say no.
Okay. What about an equipment shop that's supportive of the agricultural work?
So if it's an equipment shop for the agricultural aspect, then yes, it would be.
Okay, but then I had, as another example, I know somebody that wants to build a shop they're a guide and they want to build a shop for their boats.
So
That's
that would
not
be a no,
agriculture.
because it's not in relation to agriculture.
Okay. Containers, like shipping containers used to store equipment.
As long as the containers are used for an agricultural function, then I'd say yes.
And on-site structure to sell fruits and vegetables. That was something that got set up, there was a little garden thing that was being set up in Lewiston, and actually, I saw them start to put something out there come in and here's our stand and come do this. Would that be or not be? And
That one, you'd probably be skirting it, because you're looking at, you're kind of skirting in terms of the commercial aspect of it. So, and to go back to when you were talking about cannabis structures, this would be specific to drying, harvest storage, or the aspect of like growing. So when we get into things like packaging or trimming, those are a different aspect where you have a lot more human habitation. So in that aspect, this ordinance would not be able to fit for those components. So originally, when it kind of came, the ordinance was written in a way where it was really kind of focused for barns and I think not related to commercial cannabis. So when I went through it, coming from commercial cannabis before I was in building division, I kind of know these structures very well in terms of what they need and the different aspects of those structures. So the electrical component and the plumbing component in terms of needing building permits, that was a big one for me because that is a fire hazard. And that is most of the main concerns that I see out in the field in relation to those types of structures. So I had to take what we had and find a way to really encompass the community as a whole in terms of all farming activities. And I think ultimately what we ended up with is a great option that where I think we can address all those things and still have a good way to work again with the community and try to find ways to help where we can.
And if I take from what you've just said, there are two big things stood out to me. One is that it is somewhat the focus is on human habitation, use of the building. Is it for the agriculture or is it for the people and so forth? And then the other thing is even like the shop or a boat storage for guides or something, because it's not agriculture. This is very much focused on agriculture and trying to support that within the county.
Yeah, and that's why if you really pay attention to that definition, I think that definition is the key part of this because it really spells out exactly what we're talking about. So, and that's again where that letter of intent is very important because I'm the one that's going to be reviewing every letter of intent that comes in to ensure that it meets exactly what we're talking about. And when I say looking at those things, I'm looking at all zoning aspects. Lot coverage is a big one. Setbacks. We want to make sure that we're meeting setbacks. So that's not only just our local zoning setbacks that are determined by the type of zone they're in, but also with our fire setbacks. So anything larger than an acre, you're still going to have to meet your 30-foot setbacks. Anything less than an acre, then we defer to our county zoning, setbacks. So we want to make sure that we're still addressing the things that, we really need to ensure are being met, but loosen things up just a little bit.
Thank you.
And we talked about wood buildings. How about metal shops?
So again, if the metal shop is used for
ag.
wood or agricultural, then yes, they can do that.
Any further questions from the board? Do we have any public comment on this in the room? Seeing none, any online?
Lisa?
Sorry, that was quick, and I had just logged in. Lisa Wright from Lewiston. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, as you all are aware, I'm very involved with the cannabis industry as part of our business. And this ag exemption has been in place for a while in some of the surrounding counties. And it certainly is something that, will ease some of the regulatory burden, not all, but at least some of the costs in the development for cannabis farmers who, certainly are a major part of our economy. So I would ask that you support this. I think Cody's done a great job. He's been kind of through the trenches on many of these different aspects and is very knowledgeable. So my recommendation and ask is to please accept this ordinance as is presented by staff and go on to the second reading on the next agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other online?
I have no additional raised hands.
Thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the ordinance as presented.
I'll second that.
And if I could, just as a comment before we vote, I just would like to acknowledge the work of Supervisor Frazier on this. This was a visionary and a passion of his, and I'm sorry that he can't see it be passed from a closer view, but I'm sure that he is enjoying the completion.
Yeah, and my thanks to you, Cody, for working this through. Like you said, there was still a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross to get us to a point where we can be comfortable with what we're approving and what you're gonna have to face as all the requests come in the future. Thank you.
This was huge, Cody. Thank you.
Supervisor Brownfield,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Leutweather,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Thank you.
And this is retroactive, so I can get my fees back for our barn that we put up a few years ago.
Think so.
Timing is everything. Dang it.
We will now move on to item F4, County Administrative Office, receive an update on jail health budget related items.
Susie, could you bring up the slides? And while those are coming up and Liz is coming up, Liz is going to run through some slides that we have used in a couple different forums. We used a version of these slides when we talked with the Sheriff's Department and his staff, his leadership staff, on the jail health budgetary items that HHSA has been pursuing for a while now. And the intent of this update is to provide the information to the board, to the full members of the board. I know there's been some members, particularly Rick was involved with a little bit at up front, and he's made some of those comments, but this is to provide the full update to the board prior to us going into full budget development and department budget hearings, and then we'll have board budget hearings in September. But just to give you a flavor for the effort that's been put forth and some of the potentials that we're starting to see, there are still lots of unknowns. There are still lots of unknowns with the state. There are still lots of unknowns with the 5 different funding sources, but some of those are becoming more apparent to us, and we're able to hone in on, some ranges of financial benefits that we're going to see from the work that's been done. So, to start off, I do want to thank Liz and her team for doing this effort since we provided them this opportunity back in October of last year. They have stepped up and truly excelled at it. So we've had numerous discussions. There's lots of meetings that happen on a routine basis. There's pop-up meetings that happen. And I think we've made some good progress towards the services that have been able to been enhanced by this effort to date. And then we're really looking forward to next fiscal year and beyond. So with that, I'll turn it over to Liz to run through some of the slides, and then anytime we can just have discussion, because that's what the agenda item is.
Well, good afternoon, Liz Hamilton, Health and Human Services Agency Director. While the jail falls squarely within the authority of the sheriff, you might wonder why and how is Health and Human Services involved. So my goal with this presentation today is to just help you understand why we have a partnership what we bring to the table, and the long-term relationship that we will have with the sheriff's office with justice involved. Okay, thank you. So we'll run through, the road to our partnership, the goals and objectives that we have been working towards for the last 7 months, 6 months, CalAIM and funding streams, and then next steps. Next. So as Trent said, in October, on the 15th, the board directed the financial side of jail health to us. And this doesn't depict like an actual pie chart. However, I just wanted to show that when we carve out jail health, you have a general fund contribution and then a health realignment contribution. And that is our first connection with Health and Human Services through public health realignment to fund the activities to support health in the jail. Next slide. So post October 15th, our team internal to HHS, well, I'll just frame it that my leadership style is to take our state and federal directives, interpret those to a local level, and create teams around how do we achieve this in a reasonable amount of time. And so our team consists of 8 individuals that bring a different expertise to the table. And we meet with the sheriff and his team and who he has identified. And then CAO has been in lockstep with us, as well as IT, to we'll go through the things that we've been working on. So I want to thank, Trent and Tim, because we have been able to do a lot in 6-7 months. So the first thing that we did, we established our team that I give all credit to. They're phenomenal. We wanted to support from the sheriff's office. Their first ask was, how do we enhance our medical providers in the jail? And so we became fully engaged with the medical team with Dr. Kraus and his team. We added a second PA, and then recently added a nurse and LVN, who that team of the 4 medical staff now in the jail have been working on a gap analysis with policies and procedures, and working to not the jail at large, I'm talking about the health portion of the jail, so that they are coordinated amongst the 4 of them and how they are operating. And then we are physically, logistics, upgrading the medical suite that is up there. We'll talk about through the PathGI funds that have been made available. We're using that to bring on an electronic health record and EHR. From your own personal experience, you go to the doctor and they're sitting, they're standing, sitting, typing in notes that's going into a version of an EHR. We have been able to secure a vendor that has an EHR that's specific to corrections. So it communicates directly, does an automatic upload from the system they use in Spillman, and for prescription ordering. So it's a huge win because it's incredibly efficient. Now, whether you're at a hospital, a doctor's office, a jail, how do these EHRs talk to each other? How do you go from one provider to the next and know? And that's a health information exchange. And so we have also secured that contract so that an inmate coming in or exiting, whoever their health provider was outside of their custody time, our physicians can see that inside custody time. Our community health worker in public health, Ellie, she is just a rock star. I give a personal shout out to her. She goes up to the jail every day and works with the correction officer staff and the jail sergeant. And time studying is very normal for our business practice. It's not for everyone else. And so there's a lot of training opportunity, a lot of encouragement. And she's consistent with that. Our staff helped actually just create an actual platform for time studying. We kept it simple. That was what Sergeant Mucklow had asked us to do, keep it very simple. I feel like we have achieved that. And correction officer staff are now in the habit and routine of time studying their time, which allows us to collect data It allows us to look at cost recovery. We have been able to go for the past couple of years, comb through medical related bills, see where we can ask for reimbursements through these other funding streams. And that has gone very well. This last round, in one of them, we were able to cost recover around $270,000, which is what is affording the additional PA, the additional nurse in the medical suite. And so real results in real time right now. So we will continue to research and maximize our funding sources, and then looking into the future, assessing the services that are going to be required by the state that are offered from a health and human services perspective into the jail, which requires leadership support and coordinated meetings, which we will talk about. So CalAIM, California Advancing and Innovating Medi-Cal. This is a Medi-Cal reform, but kind of backtrack and say CMS is their federal parent company to the state, which is Department of Healthcare Service. This is my everyday world in health and human services. They oversee Medicare and Medicaid, and then that translates to a state. Of course, California changed that to Medi-Cal for us Californians. And CalAIM is actually the next step to the reform that Medi-Cal went through back in 2012 with Obamacare. This is the next phase of that, where you're looking at populations that cause burden to our health systems, or can high likelihood that they're causing burdens. So folks that have, or that do not rather have a primary care physician, and something happens, a cold ear infection, they're going to the emergency room department instead of a primary care. So we're looking at, CalAIM looks at populations of health. Justice involved is one of those. But from a federal to a state, well, California is very large. How do they kind of walk out these changes, especially something as large as a CalAIM reform? We have managed care plans. So that was, we are in the North State. Those are the counties highlighted. There's 24 counties there that are under Partnership Health Plan of California. They manage our Medi-Cal. So a person would come to the county department to qualify for Medi-Cal, and then Partnership is the company that will help manage everything thereafter. They are also in contract with DHCS to ensure quality assurance on the county part, that we are doing everything that we need to be doing in our contract to the state. Next slide. These are for your reading pleasure later. These in the CalAIM initiatives are from a high level overview of what CalAIM is set out to achieve between 2022 and 2027. Of interest for this meeting today, it is looking at the two buckets that are really with justice involved. You in other meeting forums have probably heard about enhanced care management, community supports. There's other pieces of that. I'm happy to meet and discuss these other CalAIM initiatives that we at a local level are responsible. Next slide. So what this does for health and human services specifically, these yellow, this is kind of a high level program org chart of our department. And what CalAIM does, it highlights these yellow, it enacts or enables these areas to then become engaged with justice involved. If I showed you another slide, it would only have two highlighted, pre-CalAIM and now post-CalAIM. We're really engaged with a lot more. Next slide. So our funding streams, you are all involved with general funds, so I won't talk about that today. But to my left, those columns, general fund, health realignment, and then insurance claims have been a standard practice for operating the jail. What is new is on the right column in the blue that we will be discussing, and those are made available with this CalAIM initiative. So ultimately, impact, positive or negative, general fund, right? Hopefully we have a good impact. So health realignment, these are all of our categories that we fund with health realignment. The two that are bold, animal control and jail health, are within the sheriff's authority. I just wanted you to see what we are committed to with our health realignment. If you add or subtract from one, know that it pulls the strings on another. That is our list. The Medi-Cal inmate population, so this is new. Well, it's new in that we've submitted our application, our letter of intent. We will begin July 1 of this year. This is our ability to seek reimbursement for any time an inmate is outside of the correction facility more than 24 hours for a health-related issue. So if they're hospitalized and they're off-site more than 24 hours, we can ask that recoup those costs medically and for staff time because, as you know, corrections must sit with an inmate. Medi-Cal, we will now be able to, so Cal-AIM allows us to recoup costs or bill for costs in the first 28 days of someone's incarceration. That is new with Cal-AIM. Typically in the past, when someone was arrested and they were on Medi-Cal, a pause button would hit and then you would unpause it when they were released. Cal-AIM allows for us in that first 28 days to bill for health-related services, and then it again comes on 90 days before they're released. So that's an amazing shift in coverage. So looking at that time frame, first 28 days and the last 90 days pre-release, we can do direct billing. Anyone who's ever dabbled in insurance billing, it is a big lift. So we have secured a contract with a vendor that will be doing that for us, and they already coordinate with Core EMR, which is our electronic health record. This one. Intergovernmental transfers, IGT. This is a familiar practice and funding stream for us. This is where we can seek federal reimbursement for any costs that Medi-Cal here, Medicaid at a federal level, does not pay for. We do have to have a match to it, but then we get that back at 140%. And so this is how we operate in public health for our expenses for functions that maybe the state won't pay for, but the federal government will help reimburse and offset. The next is, we call it MAW. So it's a county-based Medi-Cal administrative activity. So where IGT was really focused on the reimbursing the cost of a person, MAW focuses on reimbursing for the unfunded cost of staff time. And this is where time studying, this is what drives our time studying. Actually IGT and MAW, but specifically MAW. So these, anything that we do in the health-related space for staff, we can keep track of that, and then we ask for reimbursement. So Jamie Teal, our staff services manager, she actually operates in one of her many hats that she wears. She is our LGA coordinator for the entire county. And so that is for, it will be for this with the sheriff's office. We operate in that space with probation, and then with health and human services, our two general fund contributed areas with veterans and public guardian. We use MAW to help offset what we would otherwise ask for in general fund, and then public health also. So this is an example of what a time study data shows us, and this is not actuals. These are based on estimated, staff time at just a C step. We have staff that are at A steps coming in. We have staff that are the later longevity steps. So this is, I feel like a good story to tell of the impact. But when we look at the correction officers in the jail and how they're time studying, we're looking at how IGT and MAW reimbursements can look. And I get excited, $100,000 per quarter in potential reimbursements. If that's an offset, just the math at $400,000 a year, that's an incredible savings. Next one. The PathGI, if you think back to that list of all the Cal-AIM initiatives, we applied for, and this is the state is piloting this. Of course, Cal-AIM is all new, but they're piloting this funding source for Path Justice Involved. This is for us to set up a system to bring in funding into corrections and have submitted 3 implementation plans. We go live October of this year. We are collecting data, I mean, since January to help us really understand and paint a picture of what needs are financially. This funding is good for 12 to 18 months once we initiate the use of it. So although we will be live in October, if if we didn't start claiming against this until a later date, it would initiate that 12 to 18 month clock, depending on the category of what we're kind of triggering. So we have received 4 awards. I've been very involved with 3 of them with our team. Behavioral health was awarded actually just slightly over 800,000. We in social services 102,000, and we have used that to set up the EHR to purchase that and get the clinic room ready. And I say ready in that we are enhancing it rather. They have an operational room, but if there's software programs that the physicians are saying, hey, we would really like, and what's their list, made that happen. And then we submitted a request on behalf of the jail and were awarded $2 million. Probation was just recently awarded their $2.5 million. These are distributed in increments. This is not all cash sitting in county coffers somewhere. These are released based on us performing well. And I'm really excited to see how this looks in the next 18 months. But really, we're getting ready to set up a justice-involved program so that folks coming into incarceration, their health needs are met to the extent that we can provide. And then upon release, more importantly, what PathJI really looks to do is to get people connected to a sense of community and to interrupt going back and having another instance of arrest, and really helping people get connected to services. And that could be housing and health services and veteran services, or all the other things, just to serve people and serve them really well. We need, it's our part of the puzzle that helps bring criminal behavior down, I hope, that we can connect people. So the next, how we do this, how we organize all this information, I've run through it very, very fast, but how we help organize is we established that we would have 5 main teams that support this into the future. And so our executive team is a team that has always existed. We just have relabeled it and solidified that the members would be at the executive level to support the sheriff and what he has going on. And so we can help brainstorm policy or meet needs that they identify. And I'm looking forward to that team continuing with a enhanced mission to support. Our administrative team, that is my team in-house, the busy bees working behind the scenes to bring the administrative pieces together, writing implementation plans, reporting to the state quarterly on those plans. It's a lift. I mean, there's 8 people on that team alone. Our health team, our providers are very engaged. We meet with them twice a month to discuss their needs, how things are going, how do we improvise and support what they need. We can bring those issues directly to the sheriff and help get results quickly for them. Our pre and post-release team, that is in essence the PathJI plan. That is how we're going to help people coming out of jail connect with the community. And then our boots on the ground team, they're the ones doing the work. Our pre-post-release team, I'll say that their mandate would be to write the policies, to think through all the things that need to be thought through, come up with a plan so that boots on the ground know what they're doing. And with that quick run through, I'll turn it back to CAO or Sheriff, and I'm here for questions.
Thank you, Liz. Board, I would like just to highlight a couple things in there for your awareness and consideration as we get into this budget cycle. So first, I want to recognize, the huge partnership between the Sheriff's Office, Probation, and HHSA to make all this happen. It has been incredible to see and a privilege to participate in. Liz mentioned a little bit about the IGT topic. There is a match with that. So in the past, those have been non-general fund matches, if you will, because the activities associated with that, we have not been linking to general fund. As this transition happens, that Liz talked about, there is an aspect of IGTE or IGT that we can apply for and get back in, under the jail operations aspects of things. For that time that the correction officers are doing, related activities associated with medical efforts, we can get some of that time back, or some of that budget back for the time that they're expending there. So in this next budget cycle, or at the appropriate time, depending upon when the IGT funding request comes out, typically it's in October time period, so it may be in conjunction with this next budget cycle, but we might have to do it as a separate board item. But there will be a request to use general funds to match, because we get 140% back. So it's like a no-brainer decision to do. And then once we get that pipe primed, we will then be able to continually use this. So the first time we do it, we may be asking to use some of the LATCF funds to do it, and that's all appropriate. It's all good to use those funds for. And then that'll help prime the pump, if you will, for future iterations. Now, there are some constraints as far as what those funds can be used for once you get them back in the general fund, and you can't, reuse funds to match that you've already used. So, but we've worked through all that, and we feel very confident we can make this work. But just for your awareness, there will be an ask for some IGT matching funds from the general fund in the future, not today, but that will be an ask. That will then make available to you as a board, us as a staff, to make some decisions with some general fund money in the range of what we're looking at right now, probably 200,000 to 400,000, somewhere in that range. So again, there's some unknowns with that. It just kind of depends upon what the percentages come back from the state, what exactly our request is. So again, but that's what we're anticipating, somewhere in that range. And then on the Path JI aspect of it, you saw, the various elements and the timing associated with that. So we got to be very strategic as far as when we start that 12 to 18 month clock. And, the first time we spend a cent on somebody's salary for that starts the clock. So we want to be very careful as far as when we're going to do that. Right now, we're looking at starting to realize some of that revenue in the second quarter or the second half of next fiscal year. So in the budget cycles that you're going to start being aware of, we will see some planned revenue recognition in the second half of this next fiscal year. So it's close. It's there. It's touchable. It's something that we've been working on, but now we're going to actually see some of the fruits of that labor, in addition to what we've already seen in this next fiscal year. We've already made commitments to do a lot of the equipment upgrades and that kind of stuff, and that's a little bit separate timeline as far as the clock starting on using that Path JI funding, but the staff is working all that, and we're tracking it appropriately. So you may think of, well, why don't you just go do this, or why don't you spend the money to go do this, or why don't you do this before this activity? And there is thought and rationale for why, from a timing perspective, those decisions are being made. So with that, the overall plan and realization of this whole effort means that there will be some decision space, for the board with offset of general fund money. Not that there's brand new revenue sources for all this stuff, but it's going to be some offsets. So as we go into this next budget cycle, we will be proposing some plans and actions and opportunities, but we feel right now, based upon numbers, that will the plan will be is to, pull those patrols out of the jail. We'll be able to get those types of things we'll be able to do, in addition to the services that are already upgraded in there as far as the medical provider side of things. But we really are planning on, hitting at the patrol, pulling them out, increasing the morale, making sure the numbers are right in there. So we can have that we can provide those resources to the sheriff to where he can appropriately manage the jail, even though he's still going to be on a shoestring budget, but better off than we were this last fiscal year.
A lot of work here.
So with that, questions for the experts? Myself, anybody?
I have questions. You have something to say first, sorry.
Well, I would just like to make one short statement here, and that is that over the last 6 years, I've been advocating for improving and increasing the medical staffing, medical treatment, and medical providing to the clients within the jail. And I just want to say my hat's off, and a lot of credit goes to CEO Tuttle and Director Hamilton this past year, looking for the opportunities and finding the ability to provide that to the jail. And at the same time, being able to find increased funding coming into the county and to providing this opportunity where we may be seeing an offset in general fund expenditures that can help move things along to providing increased opportunities for expanding, spending in other categories. So, like I said, for the last 6 years, I've been trying to move things forward. Liz's staff has been incredible. And I will say that, as you know, my staff in the jail was really against some of these time studies. And through education and through telling him the importance of this, Ellie has been incredible going over there. And once my staff had a firm understanding of why we're doing this and why it's important and how this can bring additional funding in, they've been very, very open to doing this. And I think the last report is 100% of my staff has been completing these time studies. And so I think we're pretty much completely on board. We are, just for your information, we are doing testing tomorrow for correctional deputies. We're hoping to get a few more on the books and hired in there, and we'll get them trained up and make sure that we continue this process. But I just want you to know that these two individuals here have been outstanding to move this process forward. And I, for one, am very, very happy that we're getting increased medical care to our justice involved persons in the jail. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board or discussion?
I have some questions. Okay. So I can find the right slide. This is just a point of clarification. It's not earth shattering. But in the beginning, we looked at, so on slide 4, it tells us that our medical team added 1 PA and 1 LVN, and you came up with a total of 4. And I'm guessing that the other 2 are the original PA and the doctor. Is that correct? Okay. So then if you compare that to the health folks listed in on slide 16, when it talks about the health team, which is an expansive further list. My guess is that those 4 people are because they are employed by the county, and these are somehow maybe contract. Is that the difference?
So our Dr. Kraus, his licensure oversees the 2 PAs and the LVN, and those are all 4 are contracted with the county for service. Okay, and then we, HHSA, have a contract with a psychiatrist for service for mental health, who would participate because of an ability to provide guidance and support to our team you know, we have to pull everyone and everyone's expertise together. This is an area still of need in the jail, is to address psychiatry services, whether that's in person or telehealth. That's on our to-do list to find a solution. And then they also have a nurse assigned, because with medication management or a lot of other requirements that come up behind that. We also have nurses in public health that can weigh in on their expertise, and those are county employees. We have mental health clinicians that oversee that they are part of a clinical team for the mental health side. Community health worker, that is Ellie. She is involved. You will see two people actually involved in all of these, more or less, and that is Sergeant Mucklow, and then our community health worker, Ellie Nickel, actually a third, and then Jill Lynn, who is our administrative service officer, who's co-located with us and was really carrying every implementation plan and helping. She's translating the jail language to us in Health and Human Services and making, helping us understand. So those three positions are kind of involved throughout, so that we have a thread and in those. So I hope that helps answer that question.
Thanks. And then you had mentioned some details about CalAIM and partnership. And I think if anything, perhaps I could schedule a few minutes with you offline. I just want to understand that piece better, because partnership comes into play when I serve on NorCal EMS.
Correct.
And so helping me to understand that will like serve me well in that environment also.
Sure.
That's okay.
And for every item on that list of CalAIM initiatives, we have teams, much like this, we're talking about the justice involved team. We have other teams for all the other initiatives going all along simultaneous to this. It is a heavy lift on our department and county government at large. But yes, I'm happy to meet about partnership.
Okay.
They are, think of them as our direct administrators of Medi-Cal population.
Okay. All right. And maybe at the same time, we can cover your contribution to our recruitment and retention.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then moving down to the health realignment funds and the dollars that come in to the county, was wondering what those, I'm not sure if I have the right slide. Do those dollars fluctuate, and basically what determines how large those are? Is that like a
It's-
state budget thing, or?
It is a state budget.
Okay.
It's a percentage of tax revenue and vehicle license plate fees. And those are calculated every year. And then we are given our kind of award amount with each state fiscal cycle.
Okay.
And then we have these categories that are a requirement of health to support Ford County. So that's what has made up this list. There's some discretion in it. However, everything that is paid through health realignment comes back to a health benefit to the county.
Yes, okay, understood. And then I think to do with the match that's required, where we would see the 140% return, is that because HHSA dollars can't provide that match? Or is that because you're being really kind and letting the general fund have that return on investment opportunity?
We have an opportunity once a year to state what our unreimbursed costs have been, and then to ask for that reimbursement. And so I can't give you a black and white answer on that. The answer is it depends. It depends on what our costs have been over a year. Actually 2 years past. We just submitted our claim for the 22-23 budget is what we got reimbursed. So we can provide a match. I'm really thoughtful about what's the right formula. Who's participating, which entity in the county is participating. For example, if behavioral health wanted to participate in this, I would have an expectation that they also put up a match for their dollars and what they're looking for reimbursement. So I think those are just conversations that depend on what we're looking to get reimbursed for, how much from what entity and why, and making it make sense so it's reasonable, defendable, and very transparent.
And so I'll give you the reason for my question. Is because I think that it would be important to, for us to bear in mind why this opportunity exists so that when we're making the decisions about where we're going to spend this extra 40% return, we recall what our goal was, why that opportunity came to us, what the needs are. And we don't forget that it's the jail and the sheriff's office and the health needs, or however we want to like black and white define that, and go, oh, look at this extra pot of money that we can now do anything we want with. But to make sure that we stay front and center on where we were headed at the inception so that we don't take some sort of pivot that later lands us where we didn't do all this work, was not provided for us for that reason.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I want to just underscore, we weren't missing out on an opportunity before. This is new with CalAIM. And the thing I really want to highlight is Medi-Cal was not in the space with justice involved once they became incarcerated. And so what CalAIM, this initiative allows for that, this is a new opportunity. Like I said, we haven't gone live with this. It's October of this year. I think there are 3 counties in the state that went live in April of this year. That was the first, or I guess October of 24, we had 1 brave piloting county. And then, you know, a couple in April. Most counties will go live closer to October of this year. So this is all brand new opportunity. I don't want there to be a misconception that there's something that we have missed in years past. It's really exciting.
And yet it was retroactive. You said you turned in, wait, no, that's different. That was my question about how did the funds, yeah, okay. Right. I guess I just made one more note because when we were talking about the PATH JI, you had mentioned that the funds are based on us performing well.
So we, I guess it's a voluntold opt-in, right? All the counties are in this initiative. And so we submitted a plan. We're still waiting on our primary plan, the $2 million, we're waiting our approval. So we submitted a plan, everything that we said that we were going to fund with this 2 million over the 3-year cycle. And so they release those in disbursements and consistent with when we submit a report. So there are annual reports. They want to see and follow up that we are spending the money the way that we said we would. And so it's that kind of relationship with the state. So I wouldn't say that it's scrutinized in the auditing sense, is more, it's scrutinized in the program delivery sense.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of my questions, but I just do want to make a large note and equal applause to the forward-looking, forward-thinking, the diving in. I mean, it's one thing to see an opportunity on the horizon and say, hey, that could really work for us, and wow, that is a wonderful opportunity. And then actually embrace that and dig in with what you all have done is a really big deal. And so thank you for having vision and willingness to just roll up your sleeves, do the heavy work and the tenacity to stay in it. You could have breached sort of the entryway of it and thought, that's overwhelming, because I imagine it is insanely overwhelming. And yet it lends, the opportunity back to us to really solve some problems that we didn't see another solution for. So my gratitude.
Any other discussion or comments from the board?
Just a little, I was able to attend 1 or 2 of these meetings and missed some of the others, which I'm sad about, but I will say, from having overseen some pretty complex initiatives in the corporate world, this was easily as complex as anything else I've seen. And watching those people come together and talk through stuff that 90% of it went over my head because they were trying to figure out how this one applies to this, and they got to do this, but they were just all in on how do we make this best work. And then the collaboration across the teams, and if it's appropriate, I'd like you to help me recognize that young man who just not even involved in any of the departments directly related to this, came up with the tracking tool that we're using out of thin air. But this just huge collaborative effort on a very complex thing from a staff that was already very busy. That, you know, we so often hear, oh, we can't. This to me, you could list all of, I keep wanting our values up on the walls so I can just point to them, but this has to tick every single one of our values. It was just an amazing team effort, and I really appreciate the work. And it was, from my limited viewpoint, very challenging work.
It is. These are complex funding sources. Yes, Caleb Jensen, who you saw at our last board meeting that built out the Ready Trinity, he is an exceptional, yeah, he built that too.
This guy's gold.
He's
So say it again, Caleb?
Caleb Jensen. He's our staff services managers over our facilities and media and everything in between, to just make us operational. And he helps us tell the story of what we do to the public. And it's been really neat to see his creative brain. The ask, of us was, how do we create a time study? If I showed you our time studying modules, you would also feel like that is a part-time job to do. We have over 300 codes that staff are time studying to the 15-minute increments on. And our, the request was keep this very simple. And I think we were in a meeting, called him in to say, hey, come join our meeting. We have this idea. And he said, give me a week. And he produced something that was well received by correction officer staff, who's their introduction to this. And not only that, the correction officer staff started offering their own ideas. Well, I also do this. Can you make a code for that? So we went from our base, like 15 codes, to their list of like 50. And you could just tell his energy, and that synergy of it just caught on. And so, yes, very talented. We were very fortunate. And Ready Trinity is what it is with his development. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any further comments? I just want to say that it is not simple to break cultures within habits and systems within departments. And so an appreciation to the folks that are there having to do these time studies now. I can feel the aversion to wanting to do that and appreciate that. But one of the things that I think things like time studies do is it helps people realize that they have value in a lot more areas than what they thought. I think that when you take the time to reflect on what you're doing, you're not only able to recognize that you did in fact get a lot more done than what you probably thought you did, but you can also ask yourself what worked, what didn't, and why, and solve for why. It puts you in more of a position to kind of have control over how you attack your next day. So I appreciate the struggle there with that, but amazing work, amazing collaboration, amazing reciprocity, and I just imagine like a bike, when you're riding a bike and one person pushes and you get some momentum, and then the next side has to go, and then pretty soon you're running each other. And so just thank you very much from my heart. I appreciate that. Is there any other comments or discussion on this?
Well, thank you for putting the presentation together. I've heard the pieces, but I really appreciate it all tidied up in a way I can refer and
Closing that item, we now move to item 5, County Administrative Office pursuant to the county fee waiver policy, find the Trinity County Fairs Association. The Trinity County Fairs Association annual fair provides a public benefit and approve their application for waiver of county fees, waiving the solid waste fees in part. Potential loss of revenue in the amount of $8,480.
Thank you, Chair. I will take this one. This is a similar request that the board saw last year. And the recommendation is the same basically as last year, that we would in effect share the cost to the Fair Association for the solid waste that will be collected during that event. And before I forget, I think Carrie is online if there's any questions for her, because we've coordinated this effort. But there's a certain part, as is laid out in the staff report, we're basically saying, we'll waive the almost half the fee, and then the fair will be responsible for part of the fee as well. As we started to dive into fee waivers in general about 2 years ago, and if you look at the fee waivers that have been approved, below the board's level, this has been the same theme and concept that we've done. We've tried to work with each of the organizations and cost share, if you will, the requested fee waiver versus just a blanket fee waiver. So that's the recommendation, again, for this one, and can address any other comments or questions or specifics as needed.
Are there any questions of the board? Do we have any public comment in the room? Seeing none, do we have public comment online?
I have no raised hands.
I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Any discussion for the board?
I do think that it's good to remind ourselves that the county found a way to uh, offer up the building that we had discussed, many times over to the Fair Board to allow them to create some revenue out of that space. And I really love how proactive this board is being with their ideas and pursuits of that. The fair is very important to all of us. So I just don't want there to be any public misunderstanding about, well, why didn't the board give them the total amount? Why the sharing? I love that it is collaborative, and if, Carrie wants to say anything, I'm happy to hear her. But I do want us to remember that collectively we're getting to our shared goals together.
Very true. Any further discussion? Seeing none?
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Leweather?
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Carpenter Harris?
Aye.
Thank you.
We will now move into closed session.
Was there, yeah, you do,
Yeah.
but is there a report out from our last?
We did have 2 items in closed session last time. If you want to read these, let's see, both were direction given to staff by my records.
Correct.
Yes.
So if you want to read from that, you can do your report
Thank
out.
you. So last meeting's report out, we item F1 was Government Code Section 54945 employee, Public Employee Evaluation County Administrative Officer. We gave direction to staff. And then F2 was Government Code Section 54954.5 Labor Negotiation Counties Designated Representatives, Layla Cox, Susie Hawkins, and Margaret Long. Employee Organizations, Deputy Sheriff's Association, General Unit, Management and Confidential Unit, Probation Peace Officer Association, and Skilled Trade Units. And with that, we gave direction to staff. Today's closed session will be Government Code Section 54954.5, Labor Negotiation, County Designated Representatives, Layla Cassis, Susie Hawkins, and Margaret Long. Employee Organizations, Deputy Sheriff's Association, General Unit Management and Confidential Unit, Probation Peace Officers Association, and Skilled Trades Unit. We will also cover G2, Government Code Section 54954.5E, Public Employee Appointment, Clerk, Recorder, Assessor. We will cover G.3, Government Code Section 54954.5, Public Employee Evaluation, County Council. And G.4, Government Code Section 54954.5, Liability Claim, Number of Cases 1. Claimant Ryan Lane, claim number TRI 25-0008, agency claimed against Trinity County. Do we have any public comment on our closed session items?
I have no raised hands.
With that, I will close the public meeting of the Trinity County Board of Supervisors, and we will move into our closed session.